think we're live. Oh, it finally clicked in. Look at that. Hi, guys. I just hopped on for 1 second to see if the... I guess I'll leave it on, really. Software was acting weird last week, so I decided to come on and test. Good morning. How are you? Morning, sir. I was a little upset about YouTube Thursday. That's okay. Well, thank you. Oh. Hey-oh. Can you hear anything? Good morning. Hello. I'm great. Can you guys hear me okay? Sound-wise, we're all right? We think? We don't know? Give me a second. I'll be signing off, and then I'll sign back on top of the hour. So, talk amongst yourself. And Brad, can you guys hear me? Just so I can check. Good morning. All right. Actually, I'm going to leave the still up. I'm just going to kill background for a minute while I finish prepping. And enjoy. Talk amongst yourselves.
Are you there?
I am indeed here. Hey, we're live. All right. Look at that.
Hi.
You sound good. Is Johnny there?
Here.
Yay! And chat room is here, and everything's working, and good stuff. Morning, everybody. We'll be on in just a moment. Thanks for hanging in there. I was checking my connection after all the kerfuffle last week of trying to get everything running, and I even have backup software for. And do I sound okay, Chicago? Is it sounding all right? Is it coming through okay? Are we clear and clean, Lady B? Hope so. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's okay. I was just checking. Is volume and clarity all right?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, excellent. Right on. Phew.
Right.
Okay. Do I? Let's see. Chat room. Do I still play Call of Duty? I do actually. Yeah. Technically, the post office should be closed today. That is the case. Okay. Morning, everybody. I'm back. What's happening? Yeah, we'll have face in just 1 second. Let me bring up our. Let me fix this real quick, and we'll be ready to roll. Couple of. Let's see. What happened there? All right. What's happening? All right, and we're live. Who are the 40% of Americans that approve of Trump? I can't understand that. By last count, it's not even close to 40%. It's like vacillates between 36 and 32. Oh, the post office is not closed today? That's good. All right. Thank you for, yes. Welcome to the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, the Shart of the Deal. That's right. That's the hold on, I'll create this. Hold on. Welcome to the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Today's episode, the Shart of the Deal. Thanks for coming. It's going to be quite a ride today. There are, I guess we'll have to have a running list of what actually got shut down with the government as of whatever, and the odd part is, let's see, I think there was an actual appropriations bump set. Let's see, that's 2013. Yeah, the irony that one of the things that's affected the quickest is immigration and naturalization service stuff, and it's not just like border stuff. It's what's up, EO? The like funding for border stuff is one of the first. They're understaffed and underfunded to begin with to some degree. More understaffed. They got lots of money. They just don't have enough people. But they'll probably burn through those funds fairly quickly, just keeping people that they do have on the line. Let's see. So much. It's so funny. So much of the government is now shielded from a shutdown. Trump is finally going to stop chemtrails. Here's the problem, Carl. Would you say something like that? And welcome. Thanks for checking in from the Women's March in Orange County. The one that's in LA is literally blocks away from where I was. Al, you never replied to me. Sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's 25 seconds, and we do have one early caller, Matt from Chicago.
Oh, do we know what he's calling about?
Yeah, the government shutdown.
All right.
come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the bind.
Welcome to the show, everybody. The government is shut down, but the Women's March is wide open. They are headed down your roads and across your bridges all the way across this country. Carl from our chat room is down in Orange County at the Women's March there. The Women's March in Los Angeles is mere blocks away from where I am reporting from. Couldn't get any closer to it because literally I was like, I'll get into a coffee shop and maybe set up in there, and I'll be able to stream from there. They had broomed lines back to anybody who wasn't kind of involved, to come in, and it wasn't looking like I was going to get to be able to set up gear is the whole point. So I'm simply doing this from Hotel California, but pretty darn close. So Johnny Million is with us today. Johnny, are you there?
Yeah.
What's happening? So have you been affected by the government shutdown? Is life proceeding to pace? Are you okay? Were the street lights on?
I'm doing okay. To be honest, the news that has really captured my world is Vinnie Vincent appearing at the Atlanta Kiss Expo.
I saw that, and I thought it was a lady. It was very strange. I thought a literal, and I don't mean.
And you know what it is mostly? It's because of the suit that he wore.
Yeah.
His top, his shirt is very similar to what women wear when they wear a suit.
Yeah, it looked like a pantsuit. He was wearing a pantsuit, and I think lipstick, which is totally cool if that's what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
The problem is I don't know that that's what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be
a lot of speculation, and I don't think it was ever addressed. And I'm still screening a lot of the interviews that happened. Hopefully there'll be updates throughout the show today.
Yeah,
and I'll let you know what we found. But you do what the government, whatever thing.
I completely understand your panic.
Thank you.
Well, it's absolutely right. I saw the exact same thing you're talking about, and I had a like. That being said, he looks vaguely like Mitch McConnell in drag, so that's my way of bringing it back to what's going on.
His wig looks great.
It does, looks fantastic. This is true. So let's talk specifically though about the fact that I think Donald.
Did he save Kiss?
Simmer down. All right, listen. So.
All right, I'm done.
And no, but sort of yes with revenge, right? So
right, he did it twice.
That's right.
Okay.
I agree. All right, so and the Backstreet Boys, but never mind. So the idea around the shutdown is that there was this whole week of the roller coaster ride of. Remember that the government shutdown was the kind of the last. It was the. In I guess in script writing forms, what John Truby, the screenwriting teacher, would call the gate, the gauntlet, and the visit to death, which is the point in the movie where everything goes to hell, and we find out if the hero is capable of righting what's wrong in the problems they've either confronted or created. And this started with, though, the inciting incident in the script, which would be Donald Trump having his meeting where he agreed with Dianne Feinstein across the table at this meeting, sight unseen. Yeah, let's do what she said. And Kevin McCarthy jumped in and went, no, we're Republicans. We're not doing what she said. Are you out of your mind? And he's like, no, I think she and you're both saying the same thing. When they were literally saying the polar opposite in the circumstance. And understand that this was a meeting that was supposed to show...
That was so embarrassing.
Oh, it was embarrassing for me, and I don't even like the guy. And...
Exactly. How embarrassing must it have been that I cringed on his behalf?
Yes.
And I just... And most of my attention to him is hoping that people just see that he's a fraud.
Yes.
And it was too stark.
Yes. It was one of those.
Liking.
It was that we're at Cracker Barrel and Grandpa has ordered 3 times. Who's going to tell him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that moment where your grandparent is so old, they keep ordering the food every time the waiter comes back, even though they've already told them. And you're like,
I said I want the bacon extra crispy.
Yeah, no, I mean just straight up. I'll have, like, I think I'll have like every time they come to the table. Would you guys like a check? I'm gonna have the eggs Benedict. Like, oh boy. We're losing him. It was it was an oh grandpa moment, and to some degree, and this was supposed to show that he was mentally fit, man. He was stable genius. Stable genius was going to show up at the meeting, man, and show us the art of the deal. This is it. He's gonna. It's time for a little Trump magic. That's what's going to happen. He's going to come out and he's going to go, look, if I have a superpower, it's getting people together and getting the best deal for the American people. I mean, if there is any other real sales pitch at the root of Donald Trump's, becoming president, that was it, right? The idea that I know how to make deals. We got stupid people running things. They don't know how to make a deal. I make a deal I get people together, and if you can't get people together, that's the president's fault, right? So this is Donald Trump, the deal maker, who everybody's questioning after Michael Wolff's book, the fact that he is completely losing it. Under that he was already drifting into some level of dementia in his life, and people using his speech patterns and all kinds of stuff to kind of I guess armchair psychoanalyze the guy. That was kind of gaining steam, and then Michael Wolff's book, because he speaks a lot of gibberish, and Michael Wolff's book comes out and goes, no, everybody around him thinks he's nuts too. The last line of defense in this was that okay, we might think he's nuts because we don't like him, right? This is just liberal projection. We think he's crazy, but that's what we think he's crazy. Like the right thought Obama was a Muslim, and it's just something. Right. We're going too far down that road, and everybody tapped the brakes. And then you find out from Michael Wolff's book, and the fact that people won't walk back the quotes that he said they said in this book.
Michael Wolff's book is like the dossier at this point, where everybody's like, it's a bunch of nothing, but everything's like slowly being
but everything in it is bearing out. Said. Absolutely. And so
it's like, you got a date wrong, you misspelled that. It's like, well,
did it happen? But
There wasn't on Sunday.
There were 3 other Russians there.
Right. Yeah, you got the wrong Russian.
He didn't even know how many Russians were in the room. He said there were 5. There were 8. This guy's a liar.
Come on, get your facts straight, pal.
Yeah, right. Come on. Putin himself was in the room. You didn't know. Oh, damn. Anyways, I did it. I walked into a rake again.
I did that, didn't I?
Right. The issue that so this book comes out, and by the way, last night Michael Wolff was on Bill Maher and said that not only has the president had affairs in the past, like the Stormy Daniels story that came out, but he's having one now.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
I saw that this morning.
Yeah, and he was like, it's in the last few chapters of the book, so I'm rereading those again, going, which paragraph is he talking about? Because it literally could be anyone. My fear is that it's Stephen Miller, because the most loving parts of that seem to be between the two of them.
But, I mean, look, if you didn't know what Stephen Miller stood for, the kinds of things he said, but you look at the soft features on that face,
you'd go, that guy lives in a hollowed out volcano. and is working on a death ray. That's what when I see Stephen Miller.
He hollowed it out with his own Wolverine-like claws.
Right. That's right. that come out of his chin or something odd. Like he's angry because his superpowers aren't cool. You know what I mean? Like, I have claw-like appendages, but they had to come out of my ears. Being a mutant sucks, and I'm mad at the world. And so, and by the way, Stephen Miller is currently president because Donald Trump's immigration flip out and his inability to, anchor his concepts of policy or his desires.
Miller was the last one to get to him.
That's right. Are completely the fact that Bannon is gone and Miller is the only right-winger, that has, first dibs on the president's skull right now. And the only way to stop that is to remind Trump and everyone around him that Stephen Miller is president, because that's what drove the wedge between him and Bannon to begin with, and that's what ultimately will keep them apart is the fact that Bannon and Trump both think that they're in charge. And reminding them of that fact is true. Stephen Miller believes the exact same thing. Let's take a break. When we'll come back, we've got, the government is shut down, but the phone lines are open, 773-763-9278. We got a caller on the line before the show even started. And we have a lot to talk about, so we might dive in and grab that one right away, and then we'll get back at it. But I do want to say that kudos and support to the women who are out at the march. And if you're not in the chat room or you're not around today to watch the show, I completely understand. Give us a report at some point. If you are watching a little bit of it, let us know. Carl, if you feel like calling in, we'd love to hear from you. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. All right. Hey, chat room. How you doing? I wanted to go back through and see some of what you guys were discussing, so give me a second. We're all gathered in the square to see the porn star drop on Rock and Shutdown Eve. I'm sorry I'm late. Shooting pics for Red Bull Crashed Ice this weekend. Check it out if you haven't heard of it. It's so fun. Well, welcome, Donna, and that's so amazingly cool. Julie's having a government shutdown party. You're Germany though, aren't you? I guess technically the part that you're involved in the government won't be shut down. So let's see. Yeah, I did not see the tweet you sent this morning. I was overwhelmed with the barrage. So let's see. There we go. How are you? And then there you go. Let's see. There you go. Alex, you don't get to use language like that and then stick around, so bye. Let's see. Somebody keep an eye on Alex if he's going to start talking like that. There you go. Still a GS employee. Yeah, there you go. Do you remember last live I asked you why I stopped Lab Rat and you know Spencer? Yes, I do. How are you, Toxic YT? Good to see you. Sweet, Charles. That's exactly where it goes. That's awesome. There's a picture of it on Twitter. Nice. Supporting the march, of course. Yay for marching. Right. Okay, yes? I hear you, Lady B.
I'm sorry, 25 seconds.
That's okay.
And we have Matt, Ike from Charleston, and Donald Aurora.
Okay.
And they all want to talk about the government shutdown.
Okay.
And how it started and Democrats are getting the blame for.
Right. Okay, cool. We will get to that right now. Thank you so much, Billy. Making sure that the HSRPM continues unabated by the shutdown.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back to the show. We have a bunch of callers on the line already about the shutdown, so let's start in order. I think Matt was the first one who called in. Matt, are you there?
Good morning, Hal, and good morning, Johnny Million.
Hello, Matt.
Okay, so why are we surprised? Honest to God,
we're not. I mean, I don't think
we knew. Yeah, if you are, you're being silly because although I am surprised that it didn't happen earlier than this, that the government got shut down in terms of his presidency, but.
Oh, I know the tax deal. The tax deal is the reason it didn't get shut down earlier. If they didn't have to punt, if they weren't able to punt the CR and had to deal with this, if they had a shutdown and then tried to do the tax break, never would have happened. So if you're talking about building some sort of a barrier to keep them from build that wall to stop them from being able to do this. The CR being, whatever, 3 months long or what have you, the initial one is what allowed them in a window to pass the tax cut in the first part of the year, arguably, because it was a normal part of business. The problem is they now want to pass what is a 1 month that will fund CHIP for 6 years in an attempt to keep DACA from getting passed yet again. So that's why the Dems held out. But yes, we're not surprised at all. Continue. Sorry.
No, it's your show. No,
Yeah.
I was going to say this. There was somebody on I listened to 720 out here when the shows are replaying on WCPT.
Right.
And they brought up the fact last night that nobody wins in this. Nobody wins. The Dems don't win. The Republicans say, oh, well, we didn't give them DACA, so we won. Guys, you're not winning either.
Right.
Because I hate to break it to you, as much as we don't like each other, we're all one big government. So as long as you guys are sitting on your tails and not shaking hands, then nothing's happening.
Right.
Nothing is getting accomplished for either one of us. And hell, if you could do like a live symposium of this show, like a live airing of this show in Chicago, I would pay so much money to come see you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I think we got to do that as soon as the snow clears, essentially. I think it's time to do one of those. I always envied those, like, radio DJs and people who have shows who have those, like, we're doing the show live at a pizza joint and everybody has pizza and coming on down. I've always seen those and sort of quietly envied them. So I think it's about time we do a big, Chicago diner / deep dish pizza someplace / whatever CPT can set up day just like that, because I would love to do it, and we'll do it on a day that Johnny is with us as well, and so we can keep him fed, and then he can just manage. He'll be in charge of the jukebox. So I thank you, man.
That's an amazing idea. I love you guys.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it. Who's next, Lady B? We have
Ike from Charleston.
Ike. All right, on. Excellent. Hey, Ike, welcome.
Hey, old man. Look, the Republicans caused this problem to start with. They've controlled what goes onto the floor and in what order. They are the ones. Trump is the one that rolled back DACA. If he would have left it alone,
they wouldn't be in this fix.
It wouldn't have. Right. It wouldn't even have to have gone to the floor. It wouldn't even be a problem. And for all the whining that the Republicans are doing, and the way that they're trying to spin this, that the Democrats care more about illegal immigrants than they do about the American troops, this goes back to what I said a week or two back, which is we need to be clear about what we want to deal with and how we want to deal with illegal immigration. And we need to make sure that it gets put out front and succinctly put to where there's no doubt where we stand. I would venture to say that Democrats have as much respect for the rule of law, whether it's immigration law or any other law, as do any other person or citizen in this country. And if we have a problem with the law, we find a way to change that law, and we do it through legislation, much like what is going on with the marijuana movement, much like we did with gay rights. We've done what we've had to do. Whether we go through the courts or we go through legislation, we find a way to deal with the law if it's a problem. And the problem that we have here can be dealt with and dealt with forthrightly to make everybody on both sides happy. But I'm tired I'll tell you right now, this is the thing that needs to be pointed out. After 8 years of obstruction, and they're on the record as saying that they were not going to allow anything underneath Obama, okay? And the hardball that they fought and played, particularly stealing a Supreme Court justice seat, okay?
Which they can't stop patting themselves on the back for, right? One of the big, huge achievement, I got a Supreme Court justice. Like, you wouldn't have gotten it if the Republicans hadn't held that seat open for you for an entire year. So the idea, like, totally a win. It's like getting it's like
they actually busted the Constitution and they stole it.
Right.
And they've done a lot of other things, whether it's inviting Netanyahu behind Obama's back here to speak in front of Congress, or Tom Cotton writing that law are writing that letter to the Ayatollahs in Iran and doing all the things that they've done. I mean, they've skirted. They really walked that line of being absolute traitors. Okay, but in closing, I'll say this, Democrats, look, don't be ashamed of playing hardball.
Right.
Stand up. It's more than past time. Grow a spine. Get some cojones, and give it as good as you've been getting it. Because I'm telling you right now, they have no shame, and they have no problem with. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about none of it. But we're going to do it differently, and the way that we're going to do it differently is we'll use legislation. We will pull every trick in the book we can pull that's constitutional, and we'll give it right on back to them. But for them to sit there and cry that they're being obstructed after what they did to our president,
it's absurd.
No, they don't deserve. They don't deserve any quarter. No,
I agree.
Not at all.
I appreciate it, Ike. Thanks so much. Right on, brother. Be safe and be well. We'll talk to you again soon. I have no doubt. Let's get one more caller in before we get to the break, because I think we got enough time to get all three of the people that were on the line at the time.
We have Donald from Aurora, and TNT Chicago, my AC/DC tribute band, is playing in Aurora tonight.
Right on. See, it couldn't be better. So, Donald, you've won tickets to see TNT Chicago and Aurora tonight. We will make that happen. You're on Johnny Million's list. I'm just saying. +1.
Okay, well, thank you. The gentleman that just got through speaking, he's spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, he really nailed it down. But, there's one thing that really aggravates me because of the fact that we have to do this stuff when we don't have the House and the Senate, which is going to be the hardest thing for any of us to put through here. And not only that, there too, and you may disagree with me, but all this immigration problems that we're having today are self-inflicted. We allowed 11 million of them coming here illegally without stopping them, without going after the very people that were hiring them. We just let that happen. And then we also let happen going into to other countries and starting wars that we shouldn't be in, creating more refugees that we have to take in place because we have to take up too, because by rights we have to open the doors to those people, and then we don't have any dates in which they should go back or when things get better for them. And it's the same thing with people that are that are forced that are exposed to tragedies like earthquakes and everything. We have a program that tells you, I think it's TPS or something, a temporary status program. Well, when they reach that status, we should send them back. And as far as the immigrants that came here illegally, when they did at the time, they should have started putting a stop to it right there and then. And when we did send them back, we should have let them take their kids back too, not laid them on our doorstep for us to take care of. I knew this was going to happen. And the thing is, it's going to happen again and again and again unless we have immigration laws that are really going to work for a sovereign country like Canada has, like all these other countries have. We got to control the amount of people that are coming in here. We can't come to the rescue of everybody in the whole world. We're already a world within a nation. We got to start looking at the American people and start working for us and not working for all the world problems. And that's all I got to say.
I hear you. I appreciate the call. I think there's obviously a fair point to be made with people coming in here without without going through the immigration process, without actually doing that. And there is I think it's the best point that you bring up is the idea that when we bring people over as refugees, that not only do we have a stake in making sure that they are safe and in a better station in life than the circumstance that they came from, but that we now have a stake in making sure that their home, where they are from, and where arguably they would want to go back to, because it is their home. We have a stake in the stabilization of that country when we're involved in it. And that's the idea most of the time, or at least it was between the U.S. and the European Union when we would take refugees, is that now that we've taken people in, part of that is because we recognize there's a mess there, maybe partly because of some sideline guilt of culpability in that, but also the idea that now we have a stake in stabilizing that country or that territory so that these people can return home safely. Because so I hear you on that respect, and I think that's part of the argument that is being made in the DACA negotiation, in in the negotiation about border security and the like. There's plenty of reasonable, border issues to have on both sides. That's why there was a bipartisan agreement that Trump scuttled, because he doesn't understand that. I hear you. We'll be back. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
With more Vinnie Vincent.
That's right. Boys are gonna rock. This is there's an amazing part of this. There's an amazing part of this, these are deep discussions about policy, and they get set into a polarized stance, and then it's hard for people to come down from them. And I've been guilty in the past of being incendiary about this, about issues. I certainly was in some ways, yesterday when I got into my little dust up with the March for Life folks. But to make a point most of the time. And I certainly never in the process of this question anybody's humanity. So there you go. Are you guys bringing up pineapple on pizza in here? It's just horrifying. How dare you? I housed a Syrian family for a while till they got their own place, but I don't see that their original home being okay to go back to in the next decade. I think that's right, Ellie. Thank you, Natalie. That's amazing. Oh, and we were talking Ellie earlier when you gave Super Chat. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. YouTube decided to tell me you started streaming 30 minutes ago instead of telling me you started streaming right when you did it. Oh, all right. Well, we'll tweet out right now that we're live or whatever. Right now. The short of the deal. Okay. Hold on. We're gonna settle this once and for all. Okay, there is a runaway chat room discussion about whether there should be pineapple on pizza or not. Is this actually happening? Because that's ridiculous. Like no fruit on pizza. I got a hard line about that. I'm not telling you what you're supposed to like, but the concept grosses me out. Pineapple on pizza is an abomination unto the Lord, Leviticus 10:20. Yeah, I don't listen to the rest of Leviticus, so that's a terrible argument. But it probably is in there. And it's probably just as bad as being gay or killing your own children. This is like, that's the thing about Leviticus, man. There's a zero sum. He shall be stoned to death who shall lay with another man. Also, if he wears polyester cotton blends. Also, he shall be put to death if he puts pineapple on pizza, which is completely justified, but hey, there you go. Thank you very much for the super chat. Bless you. Considering how much McDonald's Trump eats, it could this shart of the meal do. Ew.
10 seconds.
Pineapple bacon pizza. You people are mentally ill. All right, that's it. I got to go back to work. All right. That's what I call Pizzagate. This is ridiculous.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Okay, so the government is currently shut down, except for the military, law enforcement, most...
Even though Trump said that the military would be shut down.
Right, is held hostage. This is his big thing. They don't want to fund our military. They would rather give free lollipops to anybody coming over the border with the money we would pay for our troops. Like, dude doesn't even... Okay, so I think this is part of the confusion, Johnny. I really do. I think he thinks that a government shutdown shuts down the military, but he hopes a government shutdown shuts down the FBI. I think he thinks the government pays for Mueller, and therefore, right? Therefore, wait, guys, I got a plan. If there's a shutdown, then Steven, step away from the window. The sun is glaring off your head and it's blinding me. Okay, I've only got a certain number of heartbeats. You can't do that to me, and it's freaking me out.
That's right.
Okay,
It's like a battery.
So if we shut down the government, Mueller will walk out to his mailbox. There'll be no checks in it, and he'll have to just stay home and watch me on television. And then I'll go on television and I'll tell him it's all a hoax perpetuated by the Chinese Democrats, and that'll get me out of it. I really do think there's a certain point. I really do think that there's he probably believes that this somehow slows down the Mueller investigation to some degree. Now, last time in the 2013 shutdown, $4 billion in tax refunds were delayed because of the timing of it or whatever. But women, infant, and nutrition programs went unfunded. Gotta love that pro-life family values crowd. Federal research activities of the National Institutes of Health, which lost about 3/4 of its employees. National Science Foundation, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, lost 2/3 of their staff during the shutdown. CDC scaled back its monitoring of disease outbreaks. Environmental Protection Agency inspections halted at 1,200 locations. We've stopped that already. We don't like all these regulations. I love McDonald's. I love a certain amount of bug fecal material in my French fries. It gives it that special flavor, that special sauce. The national parks shut down, resulting in $500 million in lost consumer spending from tourism. And reviews of veterans' disability applications slowed to a halt, with nearly 20,000 applications per week not being evaluated. Also, immigration agencies were slowed down. Government provides routine inspections and generates information isn't considered essential. So they're very picky about where what funds exist go, even in law enforcement. But the important thing is that with those stupid food inspections and those water inspections, I don't drink water because fish have sex in it. I'd read that from President W.C. Fields, said that, one of our greatest presidents. And then, and also, so the idea that this is going to, and now the thing is they want to lay this at the foot of Democrats. This is the Mitch McConnell.
It is very sad that we presented this to the.
I swear to God, Democrats. I thought you hit a recording right there for a moment.
Oh,
your voice changed so severely.
Yeah, right, because it's so inhuman. It's really easy.
I thought you were playing a clip.
No.
Mr. President.
No, all you have to do is shove your chin back into your Adam's apple and instant Mitch McConnell. But I will say that it's sort of Edie McClure in Ferris Bueller's Day Off when she's pretending to be, Rooney, calm down.
Rooney, get a hold of yourself.
Right. Ant.
That might be the best, 3 minutes in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Panic with
Ferris
him on the
Bueller's
phone.
online, too. Rooney, calm down. So, yeah, and in the chat room, they're like, President Garfield, the cartoon, I thought that Vice President Odie, right. So the government, the Republicans and the Democrats, the idea is that they adjourned until 9 a.m. this morning. Kamala Harris, one of my senators in California, tweeted this morning that she will not be able to make the LA Women's March because she is still in D.C. trying to get a 1 month long continuing resolution passed through Congress. They're not even at this point budgeting anymore. And this was, by the way, the government shutdown happened on the 1-year anniversary of Donald Trump being sworn in. Donald Trump, his presidency began on the 19th of last year of 2017, and a year later, government shut down right on that day. And for everybody who's like, it's the Democrats' fault, they're just doing this for the optics of blah, 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 blah. They didn't even have enough Republican votes to pass the CR, much less get
it's
Dems
not like the
on board.
Republicans were switching over and voting with them.
That's right. Yeah, they literally needed to pick up Dem votes. They need to pick up Democratic votes to make up for the shortfall on the Republican side.
Yep.
And apparently there's Trump and his White House are trying on the Schumer shutdown. It's the Schumer shutdown because the minority leader in the Senator is the governing pivot in the world. The Schumer shutdown shouldn't be able to happen. Meanwhile, back in 2013, during that shutdown, Trump was giving tips on Fox News going, if there's a shutdown, it's the president's fault, 100%. If you can't get people in a room, make a deal. And then he, of course, had to skip out on his $100,000 a plate party at Mar-a-Lago, his campaign party, which I guess if you consider paying off porn stars to not talk about your affairs, does that qualify as a campaign expense? I mean, for tax purposes, I don't understand. But very well, maybe. So he had to miss his party, and boy, was he upset. He apparently, according to, I think it was the Washington Post sources, he was fuming that he was missing his Mar-a-Lago party.
Boo.
Yeah, boo. Who's a boo? Poor thing. Missed his party because for some reason, he was unable to make a deal in the last few weeks, which, for the record, he blew up. Let's understand 100%. They had a deal. He said he would sign any deal. He literally said, whatever they put in front of me, I'll sign it.
Any deal they bring to me.
Like, dude, you're not supposed to say that out loud. If there was a Reagan doctrine, it was, don't tell anybody that I'll just sign whatever. Don't say it. You have to at least pretend to lead. Honestly. So Trump, and by the way, he tweeted this morning in his, fits and starts, #America First, right out of the gate. And he's yelled America First on Twitter like 5 times in the last month. America First! He just, damn it. Right. Like, that's basically what he's saying. What the fresh hell? America First! What don't you understand about me shutting down the government? Okay. And then there's this, like, his sort of sarcastic, this is the 1-year anniversary of my presidency, and the Democrats wanted to give me a nice president, #Democrat shutdown. And what was the gift that they gave you? Recognition that you couldn't even get your own party in line? Because understand this. The president couldn't get Democrats to vote for it, but he couldn't get all the Republicans to vote for it either. Because he bugged off to Mar-a-Lago and then had to fly back and sit in the Oval Office watching television.
Really? He left and came back?
Yeah, he left and came back. That's according to the White House pool stuff. I was like, yep, he's packing up. He's ready. He's going down there. And then he flew back because everybody was like, because Kevin McCarthy, who's now he's the Trump whisperer in the Pez dispenser. One gets knocked out and another one has to come up and cover for it. The snake regrows its head every week. Kevin McCarthy is now the, Mr. President, you can't leave town. You can't go down there. It'll look like crap. Everybody will go. You'll, of course, get blamed for the shutdown if you went to a party, And so he flew back late at night to watch television and put Mitch McConnell on hold and watch the line blank Mr. President, hello, Mr. President. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you for calling the White House. Your call is very important to us. Damn it. So we got to take a break. When we come back, more of your calls, 773-763-9278. And the president's, the tweets. We'll be back. Do I look blurry? It might be. This is, I think, we might actually be blurry. Sorry, guys. No. Oops, did I grab? Okay, yeah, so let's see. Let's see. So, sorry, chat room. Hi, how are you? Thanks. Thank you, TLK Knitting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Billy. Super awesome of you. Welcome. Everything looks and sounds all right?
Do we all right? Are we good?
Man. Awesome, Charles. Glad to hear it. It's no Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. We have 5 to 21 days of a shutdown as usual, but beyond that, then they'll have a problem from this infant. Trump acts like my dad. Acts like my dad, I guess what you mean. Look, I did this all by myself. Ooh, infant. Yeah. Why can't Trump just admit he's racist? I think that's the great question. But he very well may have. Here's the problem, though. Admitting you're racist means you think you're being wrong for your racial assessment. And a true racist would never, ever consider themselves racist. They would just consider themselves a pragmatist about other races. Right? If you go, wow, I'm racist, you're kind of no longer racist because you recognized you're wrong for what you think. I mean, does that make sense? Racists can't think they're racist. If you're racist, you're no longer... It's like being psychotic. Very much like being psychotic. If you know you're psychotic, you're not psychotic.
10 seconds.
Okay, thank you. "67 years old. I've never met a racist who admitted she's racist." Yeah, exactly. Oh, Amos, thank you. A little bit of sympathy for the devil. Thank you.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
By the way, I want to start this segment off by thanking everybody who showed up for the special HSRPM show this week that I did to raise money for me to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. We're only 1.5 billion and change away from our goal, but I think we're going to get there. And Johnny, you have to be on the next one. We're going to have to have a telethon and you'll play guitar. You'll be one of the performing acts. Is that you're going to help me?
No, absolutely. Yeah. As long as you do your sweaty Jerry Lewis impression.
That's right. Yeah. Just come out mopping my forehead with the thing. These kids, am I right? So yeah, but so we were able to raise a little bit of money and continuing to do so. If you're ever in the super chat and you want to donate to that cause, all you have to do is donate $6.66 in the super chat, or go to patreon.com/HalSparks and become a Patreon subscriber and make your donation $6.66. So we know exactly where it's going to, so that we can buy, we can unburden the Kushner family with 666 Fifth Avenue and turn it into a museum of heavy metal, which is my goal. I want it to be a heavy metal themed hotel and condominium with the entire bottom 3 floors being the heavy metal Hall of Fame. That's what that's the plan. And I think
There you go.
I think we can. He bought it for $1.6 billion. I think we can get it because I've read The Art of the Deal, and somebody besides Donald Trump wrote it, so I'm pretty sure I can talk him down to 1.2. Yeah, Rocky Mountain Mike in the chat room says the Hal Rock Hotel, which I think is a great name for it as well. So if you want to help do that, then like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to howsparks.tv, and of course you can watch the stream each week, and eventually, of course, we'll be able to live stream the event we were talking about, which we will somehow coordinate. I got to talk to some of the bigger ups at WCPT that make these little like listener pizza party things happen, because I've been so jealous of those things, and I want us to be able to do it. I'm excited now.
Love pizza.
Oh, for it. Anyways, so let's understand that the president went online, and his prevailing thought during this is, understand, this is the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal, and all of his tweets are essentially deal breakers. All of them. I mean, now the Democrats can't come to the floor. Oh, we got our first 666 in the super chat right now from Nicola in our chat room, and she's in England, so it's 6.66 pounds. So 6 pounds 66 pence, which is even more esoterically demonic.
More,
I appreciate it. That's really awesome. So all of the tweets that he's put up, including this is I think these were all, yeah, these are in order. His last one was America First. Hashtag America First. And it wasn't hashtag America First. It was hashtag America and first exclamation point. So I don't know if he's just trying to get on this whole America hashtag. I'm going to push America to the top of Twitter trending. I'm good at Twitter trending. Trump shutdown went straight to the top. Folks. But his first one out of the gate, after the shutdown this morning at 6:17 a.m. At BM o'clock, was Democrats are far more concerned with the illegal immigrants than they are with our military or safety of our dangerous southern border. They could have easily made a deal but decided to play shutdown politics instead. Hashtag we need more Republicans in 18. In order to power through the mess. The hashtag he put was, we need more Republicans in 18. In order to power through mess. It's a mess, folks. It's a mess. I inherited a mess. A year later, it's still a mess. But it's the greatest mess you've ever seen. So, understand, when you start your argument off in any kind of a deal situation with Democrats are far more concerned with illegal immigrants than they are with our great military or safety at our dangerous southern border, you're kind of done. That's a walk-away line. That's a pushback from the table or turn the table over upright. Because now, the only way they can come to the table is if they agree with you that they were prioritizing illegal immigrants over the military and safety of our border. They have to come in. Chuck Schumer has to come in and goes, Mr. President, you were right. It is abundantly clear. We were prioritizing illegal immigrants over our great military. You got us. We're back at the table. We were shamed back to the table by the precision, the keen, the cunning, the instinct of this man. And then so the second one is a snide remark. This is the 1-year anniversary of my presidency, and the Democrats wanted to give me a nice president. Hashtag Democrat shutdown. That was him. That was his inner middle schooler. Just when a kid finds sarcasm laying on the playground and goes, hey, what's this? And starts playing with it and doesn't know how to use it yet. I'm going to try on sarcasm. Yeah. When your kid gets in trouble because they hear and you're like, blah, blah, blah. Somebody says that to one of their friends is like, I'm not listening to you. And then the teacher says, Merry Christmas, everybody. And they go, Merry blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, boy, now my kid's in trouble in preschool for saying Merry blah, blah, blah to the teacher. Right. That's like, it's not really their fault. They're new to it. They're just trying it on like a hat, right? They don't understand it's, it might be taken wrong by people, just playing with it. And it's the same thing. Like, he has the same command of sarcasm that a sixth grader does. And then he follows it up. The third one was, for those asking, the Republicans only have 51 votes in the Senate, and they need 60. That's why they need to win. That's why we need to win more Republicans in 2018 election. We can then be even tougher on crime, in parentheses, and border, and comma. I don't know why he had to put that in parentheses. And even better to our military and veterans. We're so good with the military and veterans. But so for those asking, he starts with for those asking. When that means he's getting a lot of people going, you're in the majority. Why can't you just pass this? And he's like, we only have 51 votes. Well, guess what? You don't even have all 51 of those. Let's be abundantly clear. Donald Trump can't get 51 Republican senators to sign on to this. This isn't even and Mr. Art of the Deal, I can bring everybody to the table. It's the president's fault if he doesn't do this. Can't even get his own people to the table. Why in the world would you want to? And by the way, part of that, of making a deal in this circumstance, in a democracy where, two groups of parties have different priorities, is that you get a majority of either side. That's how consensus is done. You don't do it by playing to Tom Cotton and starting Twitter dust-ups. And of course, he I guess he thinks he ran out of space because that's when America First came. This is the art of the deal, according to Donald Trump. Accuse your, the people you're talking to of prioritizing foreigners, essentially, over military families, and then expect them to go, yeah, good, okay, damn it. He totally figured us out. DACA recipients, DREAM Act people, are Americans. They are undocumented Americans. They have never been as certainly as grown-ups, many of them as cognizant children even, to their quote-unquote country of origin any more than multi-generation people in this country have. They don't know that country. They've never lived in Mexico anymore. Many of them have been living in the United States longer than Stephen Miller has been alive. They have been Americans longer than he has. And so the idea that these people are quote-unquote illegal immigrants, what you're essentially saying, if you believe a 9 or a 10-year-old who was brought to the country by their parents and has been living under this veil, you're essentially saying that any 10-year-old should be tried as an adult in a legal stance. In a legal concept, you're insisting that that's what the standard be. And then it becomes no wonder why these guys have a problem with the concept of adult and child consent. Because they are so slipshod with what an adult is. DREAM Act recipients are not people who, as adults, snuck across the border. They are totally separate issues, and they should be treated as such. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. So. Hold on one second, guys. Bringing up a couple of things. That's ridiculous. Here we go. Hey, we got 192 people in the chat room. That's nice. Glad you guys are joining us. I appreciate it. Let's see. Shouldn't punish people for what their parents did. I mean, you're talking about people who believe in original sin. In a lot of ways, it's really a difficult point. Schumer is having a presser. Does that mean they've made a deal? We'll see. I'll look on here to see if they brought up... oh, there it is. Okay, good.
We left the meeting having agreed to try for a short-term CR that would keep everyone at the negotiating table for a few more days. The president suggested, let's do it by Tuesday night. We said, great. Several hours later, he called back. He said, so I hear we have a 3-week deal. I said, no, Mr. President, no one's even talked to me about a 3-week deal. I heard that's the deal. I said, no one's talked to me. I called Leader Pelosi, no one had talked to her. Then, a few hours later, they called back again. Well, we're going to need this in addition. Things
that didn't work.
General Kelly that they knew were far right and off the table. Now, the lunch that seemed so promising was quickly overtaken by hard-right forces in the administration, even though we bent over backwards to meet the president's demands. Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O. It's next to impossible.
Salud.
As soon as you take one step forward, the hard-right forces...
Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
President 3 steps back. Now,
hello.
I want to say, I
Hi.
have the
Hello.
personal animus
Oh, okay. There you go.
that a lot of my colleagues have towards the president.
So Schumer's having a press conference.
Yeah, 3 callers. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Brad from Rockford, Tim from Chicago. Brad wants to talk about the
Shutdown?
Government shutdown. Tim says, what's your resolution about DACA?
Right.
And I'm still getting information on the 3rd caller.
Okay, cool.
McConnell has found this out. Speaker Ryan has found this out.
Oh, that's Ann. She wants to rant about Hades and what he said.
Oh, okay.
In the Trump shutdown. It doesn't have to be this way. We can get big things done. We can fund the military at the highest level ever. We can commit unprecedented resources to the fight against opioids, to our veterans, to pension plans that are drying up. We can protect our southern border and protect young Americans who were brought here as children. We can pass children's health insurance. And I've never seen something so cynical as Republicans pitting groups of children against each other. They hold up Chip to hold other children, these time the DACA kids, hostage. That's a disgrace. That's not what America wants. We can also pass disaster aid, which Texas, California, Florida, and Puerto Rico want. We can do big things, but the president needs to step up and lead. The Republicans control the presidency, the Senate, the House. They know who's responsible. The American people know that the Republicans control the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and they know who's responsible. America knows this is the Trump shutdown. Only the president can end it. We Democrats are at the table. We're ready to negotiate. The president needs to pull up a chair to end this shutdown. Ready for your questions. King.
Can you define what you mean by when you say you put the wall on the table?
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out on me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show. Right now, Chuck Schumer is having a press conference. He just gave a little bit like opening remarks. Now he's taking questions. The fascinating part, like I guess the big quote that probably people are going to grab from it is he said, "Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O." But and of course, as soon as he said that, Sarah Huckabee Sanders brought out the president's physician to rebut that. And said he's never seen a less Jell-O-like human being in his life, and that the president doesn't even like Jell-O. The wiggling makes him nervous.
Well, I can't really fault him there.
Right? Yeah. Oh, because you don't like Jell-O?
No, but I mean I like Jell-O, but it does make me nervous.
I mean, it should. I mean, it is basically horse hooves. It's. I mean, it's marrow. So. Yuck. But anyways, let's. We've got some callers on the line, and I want to get to folks today because since we're dealing with the art of the Jell-O today, who do we have, Johnny?
We've got Brett from Rockford on line 1.
Right on. Hey, Brett. Welcome.
Hey, Al. Is there a fire or anything going on in the studio? Because Lady B seems to be a little distracted. She couldn't even remember the name of the show. Johnny just pestering her.
I think it's. I'm going with Johnny pestering her because I personally, because
there are all kinds of sudden gas expulsions and things that happen in here.
Johnny is a
She's
fire.
dealing with a lot.
Yeah, and Johnny has been known to set off fire alarms on his own. Just from gastrointestinal distress. So
yeah, CO2 detectors.
That's right, just across down the block. Anyways, so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't the shutdown. She didn't even get my topic here. I was going to, first of all, say I'd forgotten Stormy Daniels.
Yeah,
she was the one who was going to run against David Vitter.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that's probably when people kind of started talking to her and went, "Oh, wait, you know."
Yeah, it's probably how she got it.
And
yeah, she got it introduced around circles because of that. Yep.
Yeah, but the whole his behavior quotes with the spanking and all that, and a lot of people say, "Well, he's a germaphobe," so the Russian prostitutes and the golden showers probably are not real in that. That's not how these little sexual kinks work.
Nope.
I mean, if you're grossed out by things, then that's what you want in your interaction.
Oh, I'll go even further than this. I think you're right on, but I think there's something. It aligns more, I think. And it seems to fit with his love of fast food, that he views prostitutes and porn stars the same way he views fast food, which is they have so much sex, they must be cleaning that place. And, the same way he views they can't poison me with fast food because they don't know who's eating there. The same thing is true as porn stars get AIDS tests all the time.
How that works.
So but this, I can see the logic bridge here is what I'm saying, is that he's thinking, well, porn stars get AIDS tests all the time for work, whereas some random woman might not. And so they're actually safer. I guarantee that's part of the thinking. And
because he wasn't using protection.
Right. And I think the same thing, is
that whole germaphobe thing out.
Yeah, and the idea is that the same thing versus high end versus street prostitutes. There's a lot of that thinking going on apparently on his end, that if they're the big high expensive prostitutes, they don't have disease. That's what you're paying for. You know what I mean? That's literally it's not it's not a leap to see the logic, bridge that he's building there. But yeah,
his logic,
yeah. I'm not saying it is logical. I'm saying it lines up.
Narcissism.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
The whole spanking thing and that, that's part of his narcissism. It's not that, he's a submissive and he, enjoys being punished or, taken down a peg. It's that he's making her do it to him because he's doing it with the magazine with his picture on it.
Sure, right.
And his kids' pictures, which is really gross.
Right.
So that feeds into the whole narcissistic personality disorder, but really he is up the spectrum a bit. He's a sociopath.
See, here's the thing.
On a previous show that he's not a narcissist
yes.
because he doesn't have any confidence. He's always, wants other people to think highly of him and believe these things because he doesn't believe himself. That is how narcissism works. That's different from you. You're not a narcissist.
No, I'm a megalomaniac.
You're just hyper-confident.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I have a high level of confidence.
This is Johnny, you're Mr. Glass and
Unbreakable.
I forgot the other character.
Yeah, I think he's
Unbreakable.
Yeah, right. I think you're right on some degree. And I certainly the clinical version of narcissistic personality disorder is based on that. But I actually think he has more of a Napoleon complex. That he actually has his issue. Narcissus saw his own reflection, was so in love with it that he fell in the water. The idea that narcissist is effectively American Psycho. If you really look at the primary view of what a narcissist is, it's Patrick Bateman.
Between narcissism, sociopathy, and psychopathy.
See, I think he vacillates. I think he has
psychopathy. Psychopathy is inborn.
I think he has delusions of grandeur as a cover for his Napoleon complex. I think he has always found himself ugly and wanting.
And sociopaths want you to believe they're hyper-confident, but they're not.
Right. That's right.
They doubt themselves. They want everyone else to believe.
Yeah.
Now, psychopaths thinks they are a superior human being.
That's right. That's Stephen Miller. I think in this equation, in this laying out of these descriptives, Trump is a sociopath with an inferiority complex. I mean, more than anything, this man has an inferiority complex. That's why the volume of women he sleeps with is more important than the pleasure he gives them. Right? This is not women aren't bragging about the sex that they had with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is bragging about the number of women he slept with. There is a huge distance between the two of those. Because the idea is like it's the difference between thinking like you've conquered a bunch of women or a lot of these women are very happy they met me, and ne'er the twain shall meet most of the time. And Trump is, I think he's sociopathic in his limited view of his caring, his ability to care about other people. It's very narrow. It's in the zone of most dictators, which is they're incredibly oddly loving with their family, their children, and their dogs, but they're cool with striking off entire swaths of human beings in one bomb strike. That sociopathic rift, Trump seems very comfortable with that, and that's very concerning. Stephen Miller, on the other hand, behaves and talks like a monster. And believes things that are monstrous. And he is the person who is currently sock puppeting the president. Make no mistake, this whole Tom Cotton can want to believe that he had a big part to play in this all he wants to, and he certainly was an irritant in the ear of the president about these issues. But understand that Stephen Miller is the one going, they're right, and B, what'll keep them from bugging you is if you say this. Stephen Miller is directing that or whatever. Let's take a break and then we'll come back with more calls. 773-763-9278. The spanking fetish stems from early childhood abuse. I don't know about that. I've never maybe this is TMI, but I've never, that's never worked for me as a kink or an approach ever in my relationships. I have had partners who were interested in that behavior, and I couldn't bring myself to do it because it's just not my thing. I feel like I think the world is now sexually divided into the chokers and the Casanovas, and I'm profoundly and happily in the Casanova zone. I would much rather have seductive sexual relations as opposed to objectified and controlling ones. If that's someone's thing and their pleasure, I have no issue with that. It's just not mine. But I do think that each one can have its own problems, male or female, and so I don't necessarily make that automatic. You might be in the middle, actually. Well, that's fine. I mean, trying things on is different, but any type of hyperfixation obviously points to a more child-based reference point. There's the Casanova Frankenstein sexual contingent. I'm afraid to meet those people. When a man brags about having slept with lots of women, that tells me he couldn't get any of them to do it twice. That's a great point, Nicola. Trump is also watching Fox News and repeating what they are saying. Yeah, I mean, they are seeking a lot of times to be the last voice in his head. I mean,
30 seconds.
Thank you. Hannity especially is like screaming at the president to fire Mueller before he gets to the money that the Russians gave the Republicans. That's the big fear.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So there's an article in the New York Times. Jill Filipovic wrote this op-ed called Donald Trump and His Work Wives. And it centers on Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury. And it kind of ties to that thing, Johnny, you and I were talking about at the beginning about his assertion.
Vinnie Vincent?
No. Although I will say...
That was at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. You got me.
I learned that he made only $550 a week while he was touring with them, and look it up.
Yeah, but that's because they were fining him every time he was an a-hole. His contract was like for $100,000 a show, and then every time he was a jerk and did something that was a deal breaker, they struck $1,000. And eventually, Gene was like, "You owe us money." But in Michael Wolff's book, apparently last night on Bill Maher, the news that was made was that he asserted that while he had it dead to rights, he didn't have the final evidence, so he could only sort of lay out the case for it, not pin it down. In the book was that Trump has not only had affairs in the past, like Stormy Daniels, he is having one now. He's currently in the process of having one. Now, he wouldn't be the first president to have an affair while he's in the White House. No. Apparently Kennedy was notorious for it when it was alleged that George W. Bush Sr. was having one. That became news, and then apparently that affair ended abruptly when the news broke, or the rumor broke, depending on whether or not you believe there was a there. And we immediately had the Iraq War, hence the Wag the Dogs script started being written right about then. It is, and if you love Jimmy Carter like I do, Jimmy Carter's basically like, I've lusted in my heart. That's the same as having an affair. That's what the Bible says. So he was like, anybody who's even like, oh, she seems lovely, you're having an affair. So in Wolff's book, he says, women, according to Trump, were simply more loyal and trustworthy than men. Men might be more forceful and competent, but they were also more likely to have their own agendas. Women, by their nature, or Trump's version of their nature, were more likely to focus their purpose on a man like Trump. And a man like Trump needed extra special handling. Women, he explained, women, he explained to one friend with something like self-awareness, generally got this more precisely than men, in particular women who self-selected themselves as tolerant or of oblivious or of amused by or steeled against his casual misogyny and constant sexual subtext, which was somehow incongruously and often jarringly matched with paternal regard. Got this. So he has this weird, like, oddly sexual / paternal relationship with these women in the White House, and he considers them emotional laborers. They are they are the ones who calm and keep him in line. And there's ample evidence for this from Kellyanne Conway initially being called the Trump whisperer. That when one of them isn't available or isn't around or it doesn't feel like he can speak as freely in front of them, then that's when he acts the worst. From the when Jared and Ivanka can't be around, and Ivanka specifically because Friday night because they are Orthodox, they cannot speak to him on the phone unless they're staying there and they can't leave. They are home and not in contact. So some of his worst behavior happens from Friday to Saturday sundown. To Hope Hicks and Kellyanne Conway and Katie Walsh, who are basically running interference for this man's baser instincts. And in her article, she says Trump doesn't just have a woman problem; he has a work wife problem. And she, at some point, and this is an interesting one, at some point during the past few years, the terms work wife and work husband sneaked into the lexicon, describing what are typically benign workplace intimacies, a close coworker with whom you share not only tasks, but complaints and often office gossip. With these relationships reflect a modern marital dynamic of egalitarian husband and wife forging forward as a team. Work husbands and their work wives can be healthy platonic partnerships, but as women who work know, egalitarian isn't always the norm, and many of us have found ourselves serving as the caretaking work wife to an emotionally needier male coworker or superior. This is a common dynamic, if a seldom addressed one. It certainly went unmentioned by the women who work author Ivanka Trump, who occupies this very role in her father's professional world. This is, a constant refrain is that women are set in the Trump White House manage his emotional state. And men tell him what to do. He is by no means a leader. He is. It is like the old stories of like a Chinese emperor at 14 years old, whose father has just passed, and now as a new teenager, is leader of the known world. And this inability for him to manage his own emotional state and to articulate or even digest the details of anything he constitutes as his plan or position makes him the exact opposite of a leader. This idea that because he makes speeches written for him by the Stephen Millers in his White House, that somehow he is leading on a topic, when in every circumstance where he is faced with a discussion in front of camera, he vacillates so much unless he has a directive presented to him by other people. That President Pinball somehow has decided that he's in charge whether or not he knows what he's saying or not, and his followers have to believe this as well. It is a stunning affect of the following of this particular president. It is amazing. Let's take another call before we get through this second section. I want to make sure we get...
Yeah, let's look at Ann from the south suburbs.
Great. Hey, Ann, welcome. Whoop.
I totally just hung up on Ann. Or
really?
I think we both hit it at the same time.
Ann, call back. You have a lovely singing voice, though. Ann is dead. Right. Ann has passed away.
Sorry, Dan.
Who else do we have? We'll get back to Ann.
We have Billy from the chat room.
Oh, right on. Hey, Billy. Good to have you back.
Hal, hey, Johnny Million.
Billy.
How are you guys doing today?
Ooh, Billy.
We are losing the war of words with this guy, Trump.
Yeah?
I mean, because we all the time are commenting about fake news and collusion and things like this. They're trying to reach their base, and Democrats and people who are against him are really not trying to use the language that would inform people that support Trump. For example, most of these people I don't think are capable of abstract thought. So when we come in with our magnanimous statements about what's going on in government or who's doing what, or we even use Trump's own words, we're actually playing back into their hands. And so we really need to work on our language skills. What was it in Texas? I forget, and I'm blanking on the name of this. Teaching the problem-solving skills to people that they didn't want, that they kept trying to keep out of their education system for kids, so that they couldn't learn how to solve problems or how to think through things.
Right.
They don't want their supporters thinking through things or figuring out things. They want them to pay attention to exactly what they're saying. So, I mean, why is it fake news? It's fake news because Trump can't read. He can't read anything, so he doesn't know whether it's news or not.
Right. Well, here, let me interject really quick, Billy, and I'll let you continue. But here's the thing. I think he can read. I don't think he can comprehend what he reads, because he's read teleprompters for years. He does it on the stoop, and everybody seems to jump through their shirt whenever he does it. Like, oh my God, he's finally getting his act together, when he's simply just reading a prepared speech. When he goes off on his own, his rambling speech and his inability to articulate a direct position other than a bumper sticker points to a fact that he can't grasp what he's actually reading. And that's even more problematic. And insofar as the critical thinking skills, is because they're refusing to do that, what we have is a push in this country for a question everything movement. And the big thing is question everything. Okay, well, no, you don't question gravity. You'll fall off a cliff. What you should do is inform yourself on everything you care about. But that's not the same thing as just abstractly questioning it and going, well, if I don't like the answer I'm hearing because it doesn't fit my current belief system, I'm not even listening to it. It's wrong because the person who's saying it is someone I don't like. And I think that is a trap that anyone can fall into. So I think we have to watch that. And I think you're right about the articulation of certain words, certain phrases, that we kind of shun immediately, and that the right immediately jumps on. It's too easy to borrow each other's buzzwords, and look at how Snowflake has transformed over the last year. It was originally something to attack the SJWs. Then it became liberals in general. Now it's something you can easily throw back in a right winger's face because they seem just as delicate about their topics as well. Continue. We got about another minute, so sorry, I needed to punch in there. And by the way, thank you for your super chat, and you're awesome.
We can't use their words, because that's what gets us into trouble, because all it does is reflect the audience's attention right back to the person we really don't that's in the subject, except because we need to be talking about our ideas and our plans for things. Like using these things we're evaluating with Mueller. This involves conspiracy, not collusion. Let's use conspiracy. Don't use their words.
Right. I would say
All right, man,
absolutely.
y'all have a great day.
Yep. Good point. We got to take a break. I appreciate the call, Billy. You're always a wonderful addition, not only when you call in, but also in the chat room, and everybody loves you there. So everybody, chat room.
And Ann called back.
Yes. Do what? And Ann, yes.
No, Ann has called back.
Oh, good. Okay, we'll get to her right after the break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on the Shart of the Deal, the Art of Jello. We'll be back. Hey, chat room. So, Billy, yes, thank you for calling in. Always great. I wanted to go back to the chat room. My brain has connection problems. I try not to step on you, and I know, Billy, there's a delay when I'm talking because of, up to satellite and back down again. So I'm trying not to get too far ahead of you. I try to, I now catapult my interjections so that I know when somebody's going to take a little bit of a dip in what they're saying, or when okay, I feel like you're going to finish your point in 7 words, so I'll try to bring it in so the conversation is fluid. But when it isn't, I apologize. I don't want to be too Chris Matthews about it. Oh, look at that. I hear the Women's March going by outside. Yeah, it must be looping through Chinatown right now. Jell-O full of nuts. Never put nuts in Jell-O. Ambrosia salad is just wrong. I was playing chess with your conversation. Yeah, that's kind of what I have to do. Yeah. Hey, I got to talk to Lady B also. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Cringy Dan, how are you? Is that a shout-out? Does that count as a shout-out? No, Chris Matthews, please. What are they chanting? I just heard a lot of wooing, so. But that could just be, people getting excited. That's debatable. I would say you'd make sauce out of it, but that's not the same thing. And I agree, tomatoes are technically a fruit. That is absolutely, you got me there. Total win. Absolutely. Spike the ball on that one. How about this from now on? The only fruit on pizza should be tomato. How you like that? I would start a march here, but people may get nervous, right? My mother didn't. She told me what happened. I wish that broadcast was aired to the public to watch it. Amazement. Where are they going? Where they are shouting, "Get Hal Sparks! Get Hal Sparks!" Right. Never put fresh pineapple in jelly. Yeah. Never lets anyone complete their thoughts. Oh, you mean Chris Matthews? Yeah. That's not so much Chris Matthews' issue. It's his deal is that the way they have the setup at MSNBC and the way he brings guests in, more of his guests, I think, than almost anybody are via satellite. He's fine when they're there in person, but when there's a delay, he thinks there's silence, and he has an aversion to dead air. That's his problem. Chris Matthews has a dead air issue. Olives are fruit, Hal. Damn it! Next thing you'll tell me mushrooms are fruit. What standards do we have? Can I grab my guitar and play it out? No, I'm in the middle of a show. We're talking politics. That's a post-show activity. You want to stick around for that? That requires super chat. There we go. We're back.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back to the show. So I think we have Ann. We lost Ann.
We do have Ann back.
We now have Ann back. That's great.
Sorry, Ann.
That's okay. How's it going?
Great. And I apologize on behalf of Johnny Million's giant manipulative fingers, because he may be great at the guitar, but sometimes he's a little slapdash when it comes to the hold button
on the phone.
Yeah. So go ahead,
Darn
Ann.
you, Johnny.
Yeah.
Darn you. Well, I kind of want to go on a rant, or at least I need to.
Understood.
And I'll try to make it quick. I remember Haiti in the 80s. I remember Baby Doc Duvalier.
Mm-hmm.
I remember boat people. I remember death squads. And I remember this country shooting water cannons at people on boats who were running for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember what happened when Elian Gonzalez was here in the States.
Right.
And how everybody was just so upset about this poor child who was here because he was seeking freedom and he wanted to be safe and secure. And those same people who did not lift a finger to help any Haitian refugee, and they were Haitian refugees. We saw the death squads killing them.
Right.
Didn't say a word about them. But alien, it was just horrible. Right now what's going on in Haiti is that Christian evangelicals have gone there, and they're telling the Haitians that the reason why you have had earthquakes, you've had death squads, you've had cholera, AIDS, hurricanes.
Don't tell me they're blaming the gays.
Mudslides. That's the reason why your country is going under, because you made a pact with the devil because of your religion. That's what's going on in Haiti right now.
Sure. Well, it worked. It worked in the 12th century, so I mean, they're just playing the hits.
Well, when people are desperate, they'll anything. They'll believe anything if they think that'll help them, and that's you can convert anybody if they've been through enough.
Columbus put up when he arrived, he put up a gallows and a cross and made the natives pick one. You can either believe in this one or hang by the other.
Well, that's pretty much what's going on. We're not going to help you. We won't feed you unless you believe in the God that we tell you should believe in.
Yeah, it's like homeless shelters that you have to sit through church before we'll give you food.
The feeding is the last thing.
That's right.
The feeding is the last thing. The second thing that I wanted to tell you is it's just so obvious that that Ryan and the turtleneck decided not to
I resemble that
refund chips because they wanted to use that to basically put the Democrats in a corner. It didn't work, obviously.
No, because you know what? One of the reasons why, by the way, is because the courts are currently holding up Trump's DACA ruling and keeping it in place. And without that chip, literally, they're using chip is all they have. Without that is the maneuvering point. If the judge says you capriciously, and without forethought, eliminated legal protections for people which had been shored up by systems in place. People had come out of the darkness. They'd done all this kind of stuff. It's the same thing that happened with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, ultimately, that drove, open service. Because you can't undo it once you've said, come out into the open, we'll help you, because you've lied legally. And the courts can't ultimately allow that to happen, or we have no rule of law.
Which is why, and I'll tell you, this is why I think that they want to, they're funding the government piecemeal, because they want to have something to levy against the Democrats each time. And if they just come up with a spending bill that will cover, say, for instance, a whole year, then they won't have anything else to lean against them. So that that in and of itself is creating chaos and costing the country money, which is what they're dedicated to doing. This is a slow way of breaking the country's back economically, because every time they wait, every 2 to 3 months to fund, people lose money and it causes chaos.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's the crab bucket methodology. It's an idea that's been pushed for years. They do it. The same thing with voting rights, and the idea is that idea that if the middle class becomes a bridge for the poor to become well-to-do or to have a better quality of life, it eats into the rich's share, and therefore every so often we must boost the middle class and then pull the rug out from under them. And the same application has been put in voting rights. This is the ID is forfeited in the case of certain warrants and any kind of traffic stop in certain states. So what you do is you set up you need a photo ID to vote, and then a month before the election, you start pulling people over of color and taking their ID and going, you can either pay $500 bail or we will hold your driver's license until court. P.S. Court is December 8th. Yeah. That's happened for years.
The election.
Right, exactly. Or the voter poll, rolls purge, where they go through and purge people of the same name, even though they have no reason to do that. I think that will not be solved, and this is my own rant, that will not be solved until interfering with an individual's right to vote is considered a felony. If you personally, and it should be 6 years in prison and a $50,000 fine for every single count. So if an organization like the Heritage Club engages in voter purge acts in the state of Wisconsin and 50,000 people lose we're talking multiple life sentences for everybody involved. Because if you stop me from voting when I have the right to, That should be a felony.
God-given right.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
It's God-given right. And I got to tell you one more thing. This is my third thing. A story ran last week maybe on NBC about how women from Russia are coming here, staying at Trump property.
Yeah, anchor babies.
And having babies that are American citizens.
Yeah.
Those babies would be called anchor babies if they were anybody else.
Yep.
My thing is this. When are we going to see statistics on how many people in this country are illegal who are not of color from Eastern Europe, refugees who came from Eastern Europe, who everybody's saying send the Syrians back, whoever is a refugee of color. It's like they need to go back. They've been here long enough. What are the statistics of people from? And I don't want to say this and sound like I'm being racist, but what I'm trying to say is
why is there a double standard?
We only see people of color when it comes to immigration, when we know that white people immigrate here too, and they immigrate here because they want a better life, just like anybody else who is self-aware wants a better life. So why is it that we only see brown people when it comes to DACA and when it comes to illegal immigration? I don't get that. Another thing is a woman called a show not years ago, but months ago, and she made a mention of something that I thought was very interesting that I think we should keep an eye on, even though I don't live in that area of the country. She lived in the South, and she said, a strange thing is happening in the South. All of a sudden, Russian Orthodox churches are popping up in these small communities. So what the heck is going on here? Well, we know what's going on.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, the clamoring of support on both the evangelical and on the NRA side towards support of Russia is one of the most baffling in the world, except for the stark racism of it. Because
that's the commonality, the neo-Nazism of it.
Right. Russia is a white ethno-national country by all measures. They do everything they can to purge people out, and they are anti-gay, which makes the evangelicals very happy. The irony that the NRA supports Russia or is somehow okay with taking money from Russia when guns are regulated far heavier in Russia than they are in the United States. You have to own a gun for 5 years. You have to have a gun license for 5 years before you can even apply to get a handgun. And you can still be turned down. You don't have the automatic right because you can own a gun to own a handgun. Ammo is regulated out the whiz-wang. And then these people somehow are fine with taking Russian money and Russian support from the government and doing these trips to Russia as if Russia has good gun laws or is supportive of their cause. They are just funneling oligarch money on behalf of this racist agenda. Period. End of story.
It's called biting. It's calling. What is it? Bite
the hand that feeds you. Never bite the hand. Cutting off your nose to spite your face, or
cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Right.
I have more in common with these people who feel like because Russia is white, they have more. My parents, my family fought for this country, going back decades, centuries even. But they feel like they have more in common with someone because of the skin color. And that's just ridiculous.
Well, they also believe they share an anti-gay and right-wing religious ideology that they believe exists, even though religious regulation and the idea of religious freedom is an absurdity in Russia as well. Those Russian Orthodox churches have been able to last a long time, largely because they were they were important to keeping the czars up during that entire process. They acted as, in many ways, like the same way like King Henry VIII, and the idea that he would start his own church because the Pope wouldn't put up with his divorces and his murdering of his wives. Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Even though we hear rumors of Putin even being gay. That's the funny thing about it.
Well, and here's the thing. If he was, it plays into this idea that repressing people away from their natural proclivities is psychologically unhealthy and drives people to be basically criminally insane.
Yeah, we all pay for it.
That's right. That's right. Because of that hidden.
What they can't have.
It is the same root that drives a lot of hyper-religious, serial killers, people who've been, had this beaten into them, this, fire and brimstone idea that end up killing other people because they think they're a messenger of God. There's a consistent psychosis that's borne out by that. We have to take a break. Ann, I appreciate your call. I wanted to give you the longest segment, because we accidentally hung up in you, and by we I mean Johnny, and but also because today is the day of the Women's March, and it seems only fair.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you for calling in. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com. If you want to listen to it, there's all sorts of links to their SoundCloud. You can listen to all your favorite progressive voices there. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Go to howsparks.tv. And, of course, I think we're on the iHeartRadio app, too, so you can listen to that as well. We'll be back. Do you think that the anti-immigrant Syrian... Let's see. Hold on one second. So this is when we go into the chat room and check in with everybody during the break real quick and go back through the questions and stuff that come up while I was talking to people like Ann, who was our caller, who was on the line. And thank you, Julie, for pointing out that I said whiz-wang. Which is a word I got actually from Whoopi Goldberg in was it Burglar, or it was Jumpin' Jack Flash, where she said, and I quote, the old chocolate whiz-wang, when she was on she'd been hit with a hallucinogenic truth serum or whatever. Amos says, poor Hope Hicks in relation to our reading of the New York Times Trump and his work wives issue. Vickery says, I prefer wazoo to whiz-wang. I mean, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I prefer whiz-wang. And insofar as, Hope Hicks, she dated Corey Lewandowski. That line where Trump sent her crying out of the room by saying she was the best piece of tail Lewandowski ever had is grotesque and jerkish. Do you think these anti-immigrant, anti-Syrian racists, now that are millions of lighter-skinned Syrians of Greek as opposed to Arabian descent?
Hal, you have 2 callers left.
Okay.
And one caller called, but he hung up, Mario from Berwyn. He said, how can we get you Monday through Friday after 2 o'clock? He said he loves you. He's that you're very informative, very knowledgeable.
Thanks.
He loves your show.
I don't know. We might enter where I have to do that for a short period leading into 2018. But I'm always afraid to do that because then I'll get a series or something and then I can't do it and I feel terrible. So I have commitment issues, clearly.
Right. Okay.
But that's really awesome. And then people in the chat room. Check out how big the marches are getting. This is great. I agree. Yeah, the Women's March is huge. Whoa, they're extending the barriers. Holy smokes.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
I want to say, if we do have a happy ending this week, it's that the Women's March is not only going strong right now, but I just saw footage of them pulling the barriers back. The police had to widen the barriers of the walkway because of how many people there were. They're literally pulling them, and people are like filling in the gap because there's so many human beings coming out. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great that everybody's getting out there. It's just that's just amazing. That was from New York. In New York, they are literally widening the walkway by an entire lane of traffic because of the volume of human beings who are going, who are marching in NYC right now, and it's cold there right now. Much love to the people who are marching in LA and San Francisco and San Diego and Orange County right now, but to the ones who are marching in Chicago and New York and all throughout the snow belt right now. And the ice belt in some cases, my total respect for that. I've done my fair share of quote unquote walks in those, for different causes when the weather takes a turn. And so I get it. Yeah, there's Chicago, as Bruce in our chat room is saying, 250,000 people currently in Chicago marching, which is fantastic. And Billy in our chat room, who was just on the phone, is saying, widen the barriers. Isn't that special? Well, it is kind of, because I think what a great metaphor, widening the barriers. Meanwhile, Trump is in his in the White House, looking out the window as the women march expands right in front of him, going, "Build a wall in front of, please build a wall in front of these women. It's scaring me. They don't look happy." And let's grab another caller, if we can.
All right,
Johnny.
It's close, but it looks like we've got Robert from Florida here.
Right on. Hey, Robert.
Hey, gentlemen. Hey, how are you guys? I'll go fast. I talk fast, so just got a lot of points. First, I want to say thank you for Ann for calling back. I learned a lot from your phone call.
Yeah, that was a great
very
call.
Very educational and very well said.
Yep.
And I hope she does call back. She's really smart. I called in about the porn star, this Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels.
Like a gift that just keeps giving here.
Yeah.
Stormy Daniels. You know, I'm hoping that she becomes so popular that she has her own, television, what is it called, a reality TV show?
Sure.
And maybe other people who are, like her, through Trump got paid off, maybe they'll come out of the light and maybe try to get their own show. And let's see where we're going.
I have a great idea for that show.
Here's
my theory. Wait, they should have all the women that Trump has had an affair with while he's been married to Melania on the show, and they'll call it the Flatular, and they all have, and everybody hopes to get voted out of the house. Every episode is someone praying for a rose.
Or how about this one? Hell, Wife Apprentice, because isn't that how Melania?
That's right. That's what he has in there right now. You are the perfect person to tell me when it's time to pull my own sheets off the bed. Right. These are gross. Time to go.
Okay, and they said right now. I heard that guy say that there's an affair going on. And I guess my bet it's with food. I think he's got like a deep freezer in the Oval Office. I just think he stumbles in there. Says,
no, he hates the food they cook for him. He gets mad. He makes them go out for McDonald's. Have you heard that? He got angry when they tried they tried to recreate fast food for him, and he's like, "No good. I totally don't buy it. Plus, my food taster got a little woozy. I want some and he said Fish Delight. Okay, he called the filet of fish sandwich the Fish Delight. He doesn't even know the name. Who doesn't know it's a filet of fish? Oh my God!
He gets the happy meal for the toys. You know that, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's why he's at like a 1 hour of like, wow, he was kind of presidential.
McConnell last night with this budget deal.
Yeah.
He's a vote counter. He's the one that put this thing on the table to be voted on. He knew he was one shy. He could have changed his vote from yes to no. I mean, no to yes. You know, so don't give me this crap that. They had Democrats that went along with it, and they had many Republicans that didn't. So he knew before it got to the table that it wasn't going to pass, and he could have been the difference, and he chose not to be. So, they own this.
That's
and
right.
The other thing is that, you know what the Democrats should own? They should own the whole wall thing, because it is a jobs bill. What they should say is, we will fund the wall every penny you want, but not one penny can leave this country. The roads, the gravel, the metal, the steel, whatever, it's got to be made here and by Americans and nobody else. No subcontracting. And there's going to be a profit ratio of like 10% overrun. That's your profit for the builders who build it.
That's
You can't become a billionaire just for putting 5 feet of fence.
I agree,
You know?
and I agree. And here's the thing: I think it should be a separate standalone wall bill that the Democrats put on the floor that has all those specific caveats in it. No Chinese steel. All like American steel, American concrete, American workers. No subcontracting at all. Must be American design. Right. Like a whole thing. And you know what? They won't have enough Republican votes to get it through. I guarantee if every Democrat voted for it, they won't have enough Republicans because they won't vote for that because it'll set a precedent that they can't take Chinese steel anymore, and they won't do it. It's a brilliant plan.
All right, ciao. Come by. I love you guys.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for calling in. Absolutely. Johnny, do we have another call, or are we good?
We do, yeah. We've got Kurt from Cali.
Right on. Kurt, how are you?
Hey, happy Sunday to the Million Sparks show. How you guys doing?
That's the Million Sparks March? Right.
Hey, real quick, 'cause I know I don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to know, how familiar are you guys with the Iran-Contra affair?
It was on TV when I was growing up.
Yeah, pretty familiar. My favorite part was where Oliver North showed up in his uniform, even though he'd been dishonorably discharged and he was no longer in the military. And I think it was Bobcat Goldthwait who did a joke where he was like, I've been fired from Burger King a lot of times, but I never showed up to order food in my uniform. All right. Okay. So go ahead.
Yep. Well, the reason I ask is because, for those who don't know about the Iran-Contra affair, go watch Tom Cruise's new movie, American Made.
Sure.
It'll give the whole rundown. But the reason I bring it up is
not quite the whole rundown, but the behind the scenes. Absolutely. Yeah. You can actually watch the actual Iran-Contra affair on YouTube. You can watch all the congressional stuff.
You still there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, well, there's a connection. You see, we know now because of progressive radio, we know that the Republicans have a tendency to break something and then blame somebody else for it and then try to act like they're the white knights and going to fix it. Well, 30 years ago, okay, when Jorge Garcia, the guy who got ripped out of his family's arms at the airport this past Monday,
right?
He came here 30 years ago at the age of 9 with a relative. But you got to ask a question. What was going on 30 years ago in Mexico and Central America that was making people from that region want to flock to America?
Right.
We were propping up drug lords down there, with this Iran-Contra affair, this three-way guns for drugs deal, and it was destroying not just their neighborhoods, but South Central, Chicago,
That's
all
right.
the major metropolitan areas where you had a heavy minority population.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was a wicked thing going on in the 80s under Reagan.
And even still, as bad as those areas were, people like his family were coming to America to escape what had basically happened in Mexico and large parts of South America to get away from that violence where it was safer. And that meant that South Central was a safer place for them than Juarez, Mexico and the like. And that's why a lot of, Hispanic immigrants at that time settled in those very neighborhoods. It was all tied in. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right. So nobody's talking about the root of the problem.
The fact that he was a refugee.
Works like this. If you have a problem, you got to look at the root of the problem. If you don't fix that, you're not gonna fix anything by throwing up a wall, okay? Because if those drug lords, even though Reagan had to apologize on national television for his involvement for being complicit in that mess, we have never really gone down there and wiped out those drug lords.
Well, and there is no financial imperative for us to do so. You know what we have done though is that we have supplanted them with our own pharmaceutical companies in one area, which is where the fentanyl mixed with heroin aspect comes in, and the Oxycontin, oxycodone poisonings that we effectively have in this country. That there was a certain point by the pharmaceutical industry where they were jealous of the crack cocaine epidemic. They were like, wow, if we could get a piece of this money, we'd really be on top. And that's effectively what has happened. That we have, the new crack cocaine epidemic is the overprescription of and the dissemination of opioid-based prescription narcotics. And there will be as much blowback from 30 years from now. The only difference is instead of live Mexicans storming over the border to get away from the drug deaths, it will be people who aren't born because their parents were the people who would have been their parents died of fentanyl overdose. We just found out Tom Petty. That's how Tom Petty died. And I appreciate the call, by the way. Tom Petty, it turns out,
horrible.
Died of a fentanyl overdose, which means that
he died of Prince disease. Everybody who just couldn't juggle their normal consumption.
Well, I would even go so far as to going, they just didn't know what was in their stuff. And there's a bigger problem here, and this is the reality that there are maintenance drug users out there who are not a crime against humanity. They are not violent. They are just users, but we criminalize it so much that these people go through this rehab up and down. They don't find a way to either maintain and then taper off, and so they go through this vacillation of cold turkey. Then they go back, and instead of going, which is I think what happened to Philip Seymour Hoffman, we're at the end of the show. This is a bigger discussion for another time. Love you, Johnny Million. Love you, Lady B. And love you, Vinnie Vincent. I congratulations on the Aerosmith song. I think they're right on the money. If you know what I'm saying. And we'll see you next time. We'll do a post show right now if you want to join us at halsparks.tv. But big shout out to everybody who's at the Women's March today. I'm going to bail out and go see the tail end of it down the street from me once I'm done with the post show. Much love to everybody. Be safe out there, and we'll keep an eye on this government shutdown. 2 specials next week, and of course we'll be back next week for HSRPM. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, and welcome to the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide Post Show. This is after we go off the air in Chicago. And bye, Lady B. See you very much. This is me hanging up with Chicago, so we don't hear blues music through when the lovely and talented... Why is it not hanging up? There we go. No, hang up. I don't want to connect. I want to disconnect. There you go. We were kind of getting to this conversation at the end when we were talking about the kind of blowback, the Iran-Contra affair and all this other stuff, is that the rise of fentanyl in particular as an additive to, as a way to cut heroin and make it go farther, is when you use what is effectively a prescription drug to extend and exacerbate the effects of an illicit drug that you don't have enough of. People drop dead. And it turns out Tom Petty died of a fentanyl overdose, which may have been in heroin he was using, or he was using it straight up. But either way, it is a very dangerous drug. And people are using it in place, or not knowing that they're using it, that they take, they'll shoot up heroin. They know what their dose is. They maintain a dose. They've been maintenance addicts for a very long time. Whatever your opinions are of that, they weren't killing themselves yet with heroin. They were using regularly. But then they go and they get a source from somebody that they don't know, because in trying to kick, they have said to their old connection, "Don't sell to me anymore," and they don't. And then because their old buddy won't sell to them anymore, they go find somebody on the street and end up buying some with fentanyl in it and dying. Hi, gaming. Yes, I like lab rats. I was on it for 5 years. Why wouldn't I like lab rats? Yes, I do. Hi. The blue ones are part of the progressive arm. There are different color ones, but they have different purposes. As far as the patches go. Don't forget Iran-Contra's main witness, William Casey, died before he could testify. Yeah, not a surprise. Patients will chew into fentanyl patches trying to get a rush. I don't doubt it. Awesome, Brad. I'm glad you got it. Hal, check out Trump's tweet. I give up with that man. Did he do a new one since we were on the show? I have to, Sorry if my chewing's loud. Hold on. I have to do a search for it. What is this? What beautiful weather all over our great country. A perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years. So, yeah. Is that if you can't beat them, pretend they're... you wanted the beating? And he did another.
Democrats are holding our military hostage over the desire to have unchecked illegal immigration. Can't let that happen.
This is like a truncated version of the other one, the earlier one. Like you already said that. One of the things in Michael Wolff's book was that in the beginning, Trump would like every 2 hours would tell you the same story he had just tell you, and now it's every 10 minutes. We're watching Fox right now. Trump got his Roe thought straight from Fox. No, yeah, no question. Lead singer of the Cranberries died last Monday. I know, that was terrible. Such a beautiful voice. George W. Bush has a cameo appearance in American Made. He picked up where Barry Seal left off. In Lab Rats, did Leo get bionics? Yeah, he did. Of course he did. Have you not watched that part yet? His leg and his arm. I crushed both of them. Well, technically speaking, the arm was my fault. The leg was his fault. And sort of Chase's fault. But I'm the adult, so it's my responsibility. Here's a lesson to you. I take total responsibility as Mr. Davenport for every injury that occurred on those children. If the law allows immigration, Trump, then it is not illegal. Right. What am I eating? Oh, I was snacking on a Bulletproof Coffee has these vanilla shortbreads, so I had one of those. It's like eating a handful of dust, but I like them for whatever reason. I enjoy them. They're very weird, but they're good. Back to reboot. Stopped watching like at season 2. Mad that I was an adult at the time. Well, I suggest continuing. Yeah, Lord Dracul. It's just brutal. I don't know quite what they didn't say what her cause of death was that I saw or whatever, and it doesn't matter to me. You know. If I was one of those kids, I'd be like, oh, darn, I'm bionic now. What was me? Yeah. Well, Toxics, one day I hope to meet you too. It's going to fix the tweet issue. Tide Pods, anyone? No eating Tide Pods. For the record, kids, knock it off. Like, Redneck Cinnamon Challenge was bad, but this is worse. Quit it. Tide Pods. That's nuts. Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with Tide Pods. They kind of look delicious. They look like a cross between an Otter Pop and a sugar packet. Like, it's a mistake. And they look all futuristic, and that's what they're trying to do. But now they're going to have to come with this, like, do not eat, stamp on them. Yeah, I saw the Tide Pod Oreos thing. That's funny and whatever. It's just stupid. People, please. It's friggin', what's wrong with you? Yeah, I don't, I mean, that part's just friggin' ridiculous. How your hair is a nice length now. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's getting there. It's like I want to. I think I'm gonna shave this side again a little more. And keep growing the top and maybe full on mohawk it. That's the goal. But it's getting there. It's getting to be like a manageable length. I think it needs a little bit longer, like another half inch, and I'll be solid. Do not eat, idiot should be stamped on pretty much everything, Brad. Are we at that point now, or are we at the idiocracy point where we have to literally stamp do not eat on anything inedible? P.S. This means YouTube. Purple Mohawk is a great idea. We are such a stupid country. We're not special in that We're not special in our stupidity. Our margin of stupidity is about the same as almost anybody else's. Humans are humans, I'm telling you. I'm used to military. Oh, yeah, military haircuts. Right, sure. You like the jarhead look. It's good. The day washing your mouth out with soap was punishment. Right. Do not eat, do not insert, do not look at. Right? They needed, like, everything comes with, like, this pop-up thing. Like, everything you pull out of a packet goes, hey, moron, don't eat this. All right, well. But then some people will take that as a dare. Like, there will be YouTube videos of people eating do not eat labels. It's going to happen. Like, the next one's going to be those, like, dehydration packets that you see in everything. How you've gone to the old Thor haircut from the old Thor haircut to the Thor haircut? Yeah. Please stamp do not eat on Trump. Ooh. Being the grown-up in the room is tough work, as seen on Lab Rats in Trump White House. Yes, it is. Do not taunt Happy Tide Pod. All right. All the pilots I work with can have hair sweat? Yeah. One flies out of Nellis. When you shave the sides, you look like Kim Jong-un. No, I don't. I don't have the whole, like... Because he's got the whole, like, weird arch sides part, you know? Like that, It makes the plants grow. It's what plants crave. Right, that's the idiocracy part. Yeah. Why are you pouring Gatorade on the... It's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave. Why do you think that? Because it's what plants crave. I'm glad you like Adam. He's very funny. Skull and crossbones are no longer put on poisons. Kids thought it means pirate food, hence the modern Mr. Yuck labels. Oh, wow. Do not tamper or turn off smoke detectors in planes. Tamper covers everything, right? Next Summer's new hair, by the way. Pretty. I agree, yeah. She's got, like, little blonde streaks in it. Looks great. Hal didn't catch my Happy Fun Ball reference. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. Babies and kids don't know better about putting things in their mouths, but teenagers are stupid. Yeah, well, that's the difference between like ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance is largely forgivable. Stupid is willful ignorance. And if you do something that you know is wrong repeatedly, you know, here's the thing. Doing something you know is wrong once isn't necessarily stupid, because you might question your own I guess, internal belief system and go, okay, I think it's wrong. Pretty sure it's wrong. But what if I'm wrong about it being wrong? I should test this premise. I mean, that's the essential growth point of a lot of human endeavor. But again, it's one of those things like the Bill Hicks idea about thinking you can fly. Take off from the ground, dummy. You know, there's an element of, you can test to see if you're wrong and do something you know is wrong, you think of as wrong anyways. You may not fully know that it's wrong until you test it, which is great. That's fine. Testing something you think is on premise wrong is not a bad idea. Testing it a couple of times, or doing something you know on material levels is wrong, like eating, you know, like putting laundry detergent in your mouth, is stupid. It's just an important distinction that I think. Like, not all doing what you know is wrong isn't always wrong, or isn't always stupid, because testing your own confirmation bias isn't a bad idea. Thinking a thought for a while that you refuse to think, or don't want to think, or think is wrong is a healthy intellectual exercise. Teenage meets Tide Pod means YouTube equals stupid or famous. Depends on how it goes. This is true if you survive. Let's see. What was... Hal, is it possible to see you or Spencer Wallman at a concert? I think it's entirely possible. Depends on what concert, I suppose. Their brains haven't finished developing, giving them a break. That's exactly right. I mean, until you're 22, your prefrontal cortex is not fully formed. The root of your ethical and judgmental, the quality of your thought is based on the fact that you're not operating with a full deck. You're not playing with a full deck. And so teenagers and young adults to the age of 22 are going to make decisions that are not based on 100% of the input that they can take in. It's why we want soldiers to start when they're 18, because we can supersede their own internal judgment. It is much harder to turn someone into a soldier after they've turned 22 than it is, before then. It's not possible, but it's way harder. And the younger you indoctrinate some person, the earlier it is hardwired, which is, by the way, why Christians want prayer in schools. It's not enough to have it in church. It's not enough of a reinforcement of the idea. So you need it in schools so that they're constantly circumstantially pressured by the religion around them to believe that that is the way. And our society is by no means the only one that does it. And as a matter of fact, we do it less than almost any other society in the world. But it is integral to the furtherance of a particular ideology to get it in the brains of kids as fast as possible and keep reinforcing it. Otherwise, by the time they reach the age of reason, which awkwardly for most societies starts to be around the beginning of which is at puberty, when you start questioning stuff and you get your burst of whatever your preferred hormone is in your system, that or whichever hormone prefers you, I suppose. At that point, it's too late to start the process of indoctrination, which is about a 6-year process. You can't start any later than 18, and it's better if you start when they're 6, right? Peeps are colored like Tide Pods. Yeah, they look like. They look delicious in the abstract. I don't use Tide Pods. I use detergent in a bottle. But my dishwasher, I use pods from my dishwasher, but they are a single color and they look kind of gnarly. The idea that they should be, they should be clear. There's no reason why they have to have any color in them at all. You don't want your dishes blue. That's a marketing choice, and that marketing choice is directly responsible for morons putting it in their mouths. And by the way, not all the people doing the Tide Pod Challenge are children by any estimation. Let's be abundantly clear about that. Let's see. Could it be why a right-winger like Netanyahu becomes prime minister over and over? Just about every Israeli serves in the military. Yeah, absolutely. That's not a mistake. That if you want to militarize a people, then you militarize your youth. You make them serve when they're 15. I had a brutal crush on a girl at my high school who was an Israeli exchange student. Her name was Meirav. Oh my God. It's still acute to my nervous system. I could be walking down the street and just have a flash of Meirav go through my head, and I'm like, oh, almost fell down. Huh. It was rough. And we had we started kind of teen seeing each other, where's this going to go? Could it go anywhere? And then I was slightly younger than her. I just moved to Chicago. I'd only been there about a year. And we were both 15, and she had to go back to Israel and serve in the military because that's what her family wanted, and that was what the policy was or whatever. But she was 15. She went back, and they put a gun in her hand and had her go through military at 15 years old. So, of course, she's going to have drilled into her head for 3 years that if you have a problem with a group of people, that's probably because they want to kill you, and your best bet is to kill them too. And then you wonder why there's people view Palestinians as dogs or vice versa. The same thing is true of child soldiers. That when in North Africa, and even in the PLO in some cases where you're starting to get children, put a gun in their hand at 8, 9 years old, that kid's definition of conflict resolution is permanently screwed. I would argue we would have a very different military and a very different society if we had to wait till you were 22 to join the military. It would. I mean, we can't even wrap our head around what that would be like. Let's see Monday. Exactly how they just don't get that school is for secular facts and church is for fairy tales. Well, I will say that yes, school is for secular facts. It is for provables and communicatory capabilities. It is literally for the ability to communicate both linguistically and mathematically in the world, because you do communicate with how you spend your money, you communicate in how you organize your life, and therefore mathematics are equally important to language, and they are not taught as such, and they are essentially another language that we use. America, you could arguably say, is a bilingual country in the sense that we're just bad at math, but we should have both skills equally. That being said, churches for morality tales. Church is where you build, to some degree, your ethical base, and what you do is you should be able to confront the secular information you're getting with your ethical base and make a decision about your behavior in the world based on the parallels, the tensions between those two thoughts, and instead of them just being opposites. Science, in many ways, is a similar idea. The idea that science or religion are monsters without each other, that they don't check each other, I want to say it was Patton Oswalt or somebody who was saying that, like, science is like 100% coulda and not enough shoulda, and religion arguably is supposed to be 100% shoulda. And coulda is not even a question. And it's, you're talking about walking on water. But I don't begrudge anybody their religious beliefs, and I don't necessarily think that mythology in and of itself is violently problematic. As a matter of fact, I think it helps, like any other story or narrative, shape your empathetic reflex, your critical thinking skills, your absorption of the bigger picture of your purpose in life. Science does none of those things. So let's see. And so again, that balance is very important. Churches that teach truth, justice, and compassion, the Beatitudes. That's exactly right. Ginger says, here's this book. It's all about this peace-loving guy who wants us to love each other, but we're not going to live by that. We don't have to just beat up other people with it. You'll be fine. Yeah, that's the issue. And then if you have the critical thinking skills and the material teachings and secular ideas and the sort of literature-based study that you get in schools about what symbology means, why it matters to certain people, why storytelling is so important to the human psyche. We're not autonomous robots, this like Sam Harris horseshit about we don't have free will and we're all basically a DNA storm that's just acting on its own. First of all, it just totally dismisses the complexity of the human brain and consciousness, that it's effectively like this, we have this binary choice that our genes make for us. It's just garbage. There is no actual evidence that it is true. It is a theory based on nihilism, and the people that operate it that operate it by it or say they're operating by it are actually lying, because they don't. They live on a moral structure set up largely by the better parts of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Wiccan, pagan thought forms. All these religious affects of that there is a life beyond this is the reason why you behave, not just, well, I should murder people because it'll lower my chances of procreating. That's just ridiculous. That's just that. If you believe that, then it's like, any woman past the age of childbirth has no moral imperative to do anything but kill other people, because those people will consume the resources her children might want. Like, that's effectively the Sam Harris argument for, for morality, is that once a woman can't have babies anymore, it's a moral imperative that she just murders people, who might take the resources of her children. Like, it's goofy. There's no there. And so the sort of new atheistic approach is as toxic as the radical forms of any kind of religion that, box out anyone's personal life, like the LGBT people, women's rights, all this other stuff. It's the same group of people with a different set of reasoning, One group says gay people are going to hell, and the other people go, gay people are simply a biological mutation that doesn't deserve to go on. So the death of gay people or their inability to have children or bond in any kind of meaningful way would be preferable to their consuming resources. I mean, that's effectively the end game of, no matter what you say, of the sort of Sam Harris argument. So that just stems from my feeling that we immediately attack religion because of how it's been used to hurt people, while dismissing the depth of its worth long term. And I don't see there is a slight, and this is my own thing, there's a slight semantical difference between religions and something like paganism or Buddhism or those kind of things, in that religion literally comes from religio, which means to bind back, the idea that you are separate from God, and it is the job of the church to physically lash you back to God, wrapping you in a ligament to hold you there. Whereas Buddhism, the belief system is that we are all like, if we are all rays of the sun in terms of our relationship to God. The idea that you can't be separate from it. You either, if it exists at all, it exists in all things, and that's the big moral test of, what it's for. So there you go. Other than that, I have no opinion. I don't know if anybody saw the blowback Hal got yesterday regarding the pro-life thing, but someone legit said it's pro-life to assassinate someone as it is to protect a fetus. Yeah, that was the biggest argument. That sort of came out of this, is that I made a tweet, and I admit this was incendiary and, of course, not 100% correct. That's not the point. It was meant to be a provocative statement to sort of shake the argument loose, which is, when I do it, I'm a moron, but when the president does it with every single tweet, that's leadership. Okay, whatever. But and most of the people who got angry with me or reached out weren't people who were at the march. They're like, I don't support the death penalty and I'm pro-life. And I'm like, good for you. Were you at the march? No. Well, that's my point. Everybody at the march for life largely were these anti-abortion groups that, if you're anti-abortion, just call it that. You're not pro-life if you're okay with the Trump administration killing more civilians in military strikes than in the entire 8 years of the Obama administration, because he's turned off the rules of engagement. You're not pro-life if you're for the death penalty. You're not pro-life if you were for the Iraq War, for example. And here's the thing. I'm not pro-life by those standards either, but I don't hide behind that phrase. I wouldn't even consider myself anti-war. I'm pro-peace. But I recognize that sometimes war and aggressive acts even can be necessary. But I believe they should be based on your ethical consideration of the circumstance. And the problem that I have with the folks that were at the March for Life was twofold. One is they're not pro-life, they're anti-abortion, and most of them are for the death penalty. And a big portion of them, if not all of them, think that if a woman is going to be killed by her pregnancy, she deserves to die. That in effect is a death sentence for her. She doesn't have the right to save her own life and not have that child. The child's the fetus's rights supersede hers, and she's got to go. That's her death sentence. And it's not that they're fighting desperately to raise money to find a way so that we stop childhood infant mortality, or raise funds, or push for techniques and technologies to make sure that a woman who finds herself in that situation can't better be served by the medical establishment so she doesn't die in childbirth. That's not what they're marching for. They're marching to keep her from having the choice. And that's not the same as being pro-life. That's my only argument. And almost everybody blew back with this whole, are you saying that somebody on death row is as innocent as a child? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you want them dead, you're not pro-life. If you're okay with anybody dying, you're not pro-life. You just aren't. You might be anti-abortion, but you're not pro-life. And then Dana Loesch hopped on and said that made that argument that I'm equating innocent children, innocent babies, with people on death row. I'm like, I didn't even get into the argument with her that, are you sure we haven't killed someone already on death row who was innocent? And secondly, we find people on death row who are exonerated, and had that happened a little bit later, those people would be fucking dead. So you're assuming that everybody on death row is guilty and deserving to die. But again, if you're okay with them dying, you're not pro-life. Secondly, she speaks for the NRA. And one of the biggest things that they push back on for the right to bear arms in the United States, including her personally, this is her personal argument. You carry a gun on your hip in case you ever decide that you feel threatened enough to kill someone. So don't tell me you're pro-life. This isn't like, this is my winging machine. If anybody attacks me, I'm going to wing that son of a bitch. It's not. You can kill him. Put them down. 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. It's your right. They take classes on how to do it. I guarantee when she goes to the shooting range, she's not shooting at the legs and the arms of the target. She's aiming straight for the head and the chest. She's shooting to kill, so don't tell me pro-life. Secondly, she believes that people should have combat weapons. Combat weapons. I don't believe in assault rifle because that's a word that all weapons are assault rifles because you're trying to assault the... It's a combat weapon. You're in combat. And combat weapons are for killing lots of people. Not targeted killing, murdering bunches of human beings. And specifically, when you're talking about a tyrannical government circumstance, you're talking about killing cops and soldiers and civilians if you feel that the tyrannical government is encroaching upon you. And you are fighting for the right to shoot American soldiers. You're not saying I should have machine guns in case the Chinese attack. You're saying in case the FBI shows up Waco style on my property, I should be able to shoot them. Dana Loesch specifically supports that idea, as does the entirety of the NRA. Anytime you hear tyrannical government, what they mean is shooting cops and soldiers. Doesn't mean using the legal system to protect themselves from the encroachment of government. It means shooting cops and soldiers, and lots of them, abstractly. Not a 2-shot handgun for the one cop and the cop that's with him who are pulling you over illegally, and you have to defend yourself. And you needed 1 shot each, and you're not going to kill anybody else who wasn't part of the... No, you want to be out a window of your house firing with a bump stock like the Vegas shooter at police and first responders and SWAT and whomever might show up with a warrant at your house. When the tyrannical government comes, you have the right to kill soldiers. That's what you're arguing. And if that's your argument, you can make that argument. But you sure as shit can't call yourself pro-life. A machine gun is a shrapnel bomb you can point. We're not talking about a sniper rifle. We're not talking about a single-shot rifle. We're not talking about a handgun even, which is a close-range protection weapon. And again, I'm not against the Second Amendment in the abstract. But I don't argue that I'm pro-life either. She's sure as shit pro-choice when cops show up on your doorstep. She's sure as shit pro-choice when somebody is walking behind you in an alley and wants to ask you directions, but you thought they were a criminal because they're the wrong color and you shot them, and you should be able to defend yourself. You sure as shit thought George Zimmerman had the right to choose to shoot Trayvon Martin. He ended his life, so you're not pro-life. So don't give me the pro-life say if you work for the NRA. The NRA is a death-dealing organization. And from all accounts, they're getting Russian money, so they can kiss my ass. I've been a member of the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association since I was 10 years old. I don't have the in the abstract problem with gun ownership. I know gun owners. I know people who are licensed gun owners. I know people who have concealed carry. I have law enforcement in my family that have guns or whatever. I think we put an overemphasis on guns in our lives as a solution to stuff, and I think it points to our lack of civility as a society. I think the existence of a gun in your household points that your neighborhood and your circumstance kind of sucks, and you should work for a political fix to that so that you don't have to have a gun in your house anymore. But I also understand people in the South are 2 hours away from a cop coming if they get into trouble, so they have guns in the house to protect themselves from other rednecks. I've said this in my act, and I believe it. But don't tell me you're pro-life if you think shooting someone for any reason is your right. And then, so this guy, the one that Ginger was referencing, that said, we're pro-life because pro-life means the preservation of life. Therefore, giving people that killing a serial killer on death row is pro-life, which is, I mean, the most insane wraparound thought. First of all, if you've caught the serial killer, he's in jail. He's not killing anybody else. Putting him in a cell is pro-life. Keeping him in a cell forever without killing him is pro-life. But and is preventative of him murdering anybody else. But by the measure this guy uses, the Holocaust was a pro-life act by the German people because they were protecting their lives. At that point, there is no violent act in the world by anybody, even if it's territorially. Like, we need that fuel because if we don't have enough, if our cars can't drive, we can't make our money, we can't feed our family so therefore our families will be hungry and not as productive and therefore won't have as many children. So we have to kill everybody in that country and take their oil because it's pro-life. Like, that's how far that lack of morality reaches. And like, that guy's logic was the most insane I didn't even expect that level of crazy. That was maddeningly stupid and horribly immoral. And the idea that these people would, largely as a pro-life movement, consider themselves not just to be religious, but Christian organizations. Believers in Christ, not the Old Testament, not eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, not, go forth and kill all man, woman, and suckling infant, not Leviticus stoning people to death, but Christians, people who believe turn the other cheek, do it to others as you would have them do unto you, love thy enemy. Like, that's Christian philosophy. That's not Old Testament philosophy. That's Christian philosophy. And if you view yourself as a Christian, that this asshole would actually have the nerve to say that putting someone to death is a pro-life act, then I would say, answer me this. Why do you fault the Jews and the Romans who crucified Christ then? Because Christ was put to death through capital punishment. I mean, arguably, that's the reason why they're pro-capital punishment, because without capital punishment, they wouldn't have a religion. But why do you have if killing someone that you worry about the safety of your family or your people is a reason to put somebody to death, if you can kill Anwar al-Awlaki because he's a propagandist for ISIS and you're okay with that, then why are you not okay with crucifying Jesus because he was speaking in a way that would destroy the Jewish religion at the time, unseat the Roman Empire, basically destroy all the seats of power that were currently, operating at the time. So, right? I mean, where does that morality arc end? That was stunning. Let's see, Nicole. And with enough adrenaline, people have been known to not even notice that they've been shot in the leg. Oh yeah. By the way, I'm not arguing that you shoot legs and arms to not stop people. The pain is not severe enough to stop an aggressor. Yeah, that's not the point I'm making. I'm not advocating that that winging people is the solution when you're confronted with a nutcase with a machete who's trying to chop you and your family to pieces. That's not my case. I'm saying, in those circumstances, if you are armed with a gun, more than likely you should kill that person. As a matter of fact, if I didn't have a gun and all I had was another machete, you better believe I'd make mincemeat of that human being to protect my child and my family. But that's the point. I don't call myself pro-life. She does. The winging thing was a joke. It was an analogy. It's an allegory. In 10, 12 years, when that child of color gets killed because they have a toy gun or a handful of Skittles, then their life is less sacred, right? They romanticize it because it's a baby. Oh, I see. They romanticize it because it's a baby, but what they really think when they think of protecting children is a rosy-faced white cherub baby. In 10, 12 years, and that's a child of color who gets killed because they have a toy gun or a handful of Skittles, then their life is less sacred. I would agree. Like, none of these people who are at the March for Life were joining Black Lives Matter and saying black people shouldn't be choked to death when they're being served a warrant or being asked not to sell CDs on a street. No one should die in police custody. That's one of the reasons we honor cops, is because they confront these circumstances. The worst thing that can happen to a cop is that they have to put somebody down. It's horrifying. We should never wish that on police. It's a terrible thing that they have to go through. Hal, sorry, Hal, not saying you were pro-winging, just saying if someone is carrying, they are not pro-life because a gun has to be used for a lethal effect for defense. Right. That's basically my issue with Lana Douche, is that she believes that she can be pro-life and shoot someone in the chest. You can't do it. I mean, if you're gonna call yourself pro-life, there's an argument where you have to go, I'm not gonna shoot you, man. I might fight back with everything I have, but I'm not gonna kill you. I'm pro-maiming at that point, I suppose. Oh, and by the way, as far as winging goes or whatever, people don't walk off a hip shot. I'm just throwing that out there. It's not the worst thing for many cops who seem to be looking forward to the day when they can put somebody down. I think a lot of them feel that way until they do it. Those that do. Most of the law enforcement people that I know have been trained that it is something you do mechanically to save your life or the life of your partner or innocent lives, that they don't look forward to it. They just want to be planned the day that happens, right? That is... And so I don't think there are absolutely those people out there, but those people exist who aren't police as well. The people who look forward to having to kill somebody. It's just it's a violent reflex. But of course, for Lord Damon, forcing someone to give birth at 9 months is just wrong. Yeah, that was the funniest thing of the week, was Trump going, there are some areas in this country where babies are forced to be born at 9 months. It's horrible. That they are forcing these babies. These babies are being evicted from the womb at 9 months. The mothers are doing it themselves. They're pushing. They're doing deep breaths. I've never seen it. I don't raise kids because ick. But women across this country are making their babies leave their womb at 9 months. It's disgusting. It has to stop. We need to stitch them up. Keep those babies in there until they're 35. Unless they're girls, in which case 22, and then at 35 they can go back in. Yeah, most abortion providers will not terminate a pregnancy past the point of viability, absent very special circumstances. Exactly. What was it? Yeah, the underlying thing about, of course, about contraceptives and that and abortion specifically, is that there's a big feeling in this country that there aren't enough white babies, and that while well-to-do white women in this country have been taking the pill since the 60s, Hispanic and to some degree African-American women, although less than Hispanic women, in their minds. This is not genuine reality. This is right-wing logic point. Are having and like arguably they have this feeling about certain Asians, although I don't know that they pick out a specific group. And Indian people. So these people are having babies willy-nilly all over the place. We're being outbred. You've heard that a bunch on Fox News. We're being outbred because all these well-to-do white women or smart, professional women are putting off having babies, and they're taking the pill, and they're not having, a child till much later, if at all. And meanwhile, these immigrants are coming into the country and popping out 9 kids, and they're all anchor babies, and we're going to be outnumbered by this point. And there was a point pushed by during the Obama years that kept, people kept bringing that up, that eventually America's, like, white people are going to become the minority or whatever. This was a constant refrain. And it largely pointed to the statistic of the number of the birth rate of white people and the birth rate of Hispanic people specifically. They didn't mention in that eventually that white people become a minority and black people will stay a minority and Asian people will stay a minority, but we could become a majority Hispanic country, which was the point ultimately of that statistic. They just said white people will become a minority, and the reaction amongst the world was large parts of people, including groups of black people who voted for Trump ultimately, was that that's not fair, that can't happen. Illegal immigrants are coming into this country having anchor babies in mass, whereas the Russian women might come over and have 1. Hispanic people are coming over here from Mexico and they're having 6, and they're all going to be American citizens, and they'll all outvote us at some point. The weird thing is that right-wingers think that Hispanic people will automatically be liberal because they're brown, and liberal people think that Hispanic people will automatically be liberal in spite of the fact that they're largely conservative, and Hispanic cultures are very anti-LGBT compared to most. So there's this big dust up. The logic knot that goes on around this happens from that. And so what happened from that, you can track that talking point, which happened about maybe 6 years ago. It started to gain ground to the Duggar family effect, which was, the Promise Keeper movement and the white people need to start having lots of babies movement. And part of the pushback against contraceptives and why largely southern states don't seem to give a shit about teen pregnancy a lot of times is because, in the one hand, they know it will keep a black woman in poverty, but it will, but the white family structure will be such that, and this is an assumption again, this is not the reality, this is their assumption, that the white family structure will be such that there are more white babies. And even if the grandparents have to raise it or whatever, doesn't matter as long as there are more white people. So one, it is the enemy of my enemy is my friend, kind of, even if it's a redneck piece of white trash, it still counts in our camp because it's white. And that's their logic on this. The anti-contraceptive push has a lot to do with white birth rates and the fear around that on the right-wing side of things. And you can look at their language about it. It comes up all the time. And it is having an impact. White birth rate has gone up because of the sort of pushback on that. But they're not going to move on this contraceptive idea because they genuinely believe at a certain point that there aren't enough white babies being born. And that they're being outbirthed by specifically Hispanics. So. Let's see. Back to the chat. Sorry, I got on a bit of a rant there, but we'll follow up on this. Cops probably are often due to probable double-acting heavy triggers are forced to carry simplified training. The interesting thing is, Brett, in our chat room, when talking about cops firing on people, there was a big lawsuit that kind of went under the radar where the weight and the pressure it takes to pull a trigger is very specific. And there's a stock way that it comes. You can technically order it or modify it so that it's harder to pull, so you have to have more strength. Or most awfully, people will file down the sear pin or to make the trigger a little quicker. I think if I'm properly thinking of that piece. But either way, you can make the pressure lighter on a trigger pull to make it easier to fire and fire quicker, right? It's one of the easiest modifications that people do to their gun almost right away. And certain types of guns, they lean in that direction. Well, they had a big problem with all these cops ordered the same gun that they'd ordered for years. They ordered a new round of them because they'll replace the standard issue gun. They ordered the same one again, but the gun manufacturer had changed the trigger pull so that it was lighter. And that police force had like 15 more police-related deaths, shooting people, just because once these guys pulled, and if they didn't tack their finger on the side and they actually rested it on the trigger, it fired. So they had more injuries and more police, officer-related shootings because the pressure on the trigger had changed. And everybody's like, oh, it's the same gun I had last year, and thought, they just went off into duty. They got enough fish to fry. They didn't mean to shoot those people. Now you got 9 police-related shootings that everybody's going, it must be training. It must be the cops. These guys are trigger happy. And it really just turned out to be that that literally these guns became a hair trigger. And the fact that these guys had been trained to pull, and they, when they're up against a threat, you put your finger on the actual trigger, it just would pop and shoot the person. And it wasn't because they meant to. But then these guys have to justify, oh, I shot him. And then they're like, I didn't mean to shoot him, but I mean, it was the situation. Then they're starting to get into the mode where they have to fix it, and they're talking about, the argument about whether it was a good shooting or bad shooting almost had nothing to do with them. That's a gun manufacturer problem. But thanks to the NRA, can't sue a gun manufacturer for shit like that. Let's see. Yeah, so Brett, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is, and when you care about your weapon, and you're a licensed gun owner, and you're aware of the fact that you're dealing with a deadly weapon, that's a good thing. But the problem is the NRA has pushed guns to where they're basically a toy you have a constitutional right to. They are handled as with as much respect as somebody from Comic-Con, maybe even less so, would handle an action figure. There's an argument that, like, Comic-Con fans would keep a Star Wars figure in better shape than most gun owners would care for their guns. And that's, by statistic. And I'm sure people will have been, I'm a gun owner and I take good care and I lock mine up. And blah. Yeah, then you're the exception, not the rule, statistically speaking. And God's son was Jesus, right? God is Zeus, and since Zeus is white, white is superior. Well, Zeus was actually a shapeshifter. So Zeus could not only be, the white guy he's representative of a white group of people. He's a Nordic god. There are no, that's like saying, why's Quetzalcoatl look Mexican? Each culture is going to have their primary, they're going to overlay that color. The weird thing with white Jesus as a concept is, and this is my own personal feeling, that I feel like if paganism as it was operating in Europe, that kind of grew into the mature spiritualist movement during the 30s especially, was the primary religious root, and it was through a lot of ways. That's why a lot of our founding fathers were quote-unquote deists, was because of their paganistic ties, and that they had respect for religions, but they didn't believe anybody was right about it. That if pagan Europeans had met with the Native Americans, we would have had more of a fusion society, and it would have been much more akin to when tribes of Native Americans met each other and started living on the same lands than simply an invasive army. And as a matter of fact, you can argue that that's exactly what happens with the Nordics. The Vikings came over, slept with Chinese people that came across the land bridge, and Native Americans look very much like a genetic cross between those two groups of people. And if you're following the evolutionary Lucy theory, that's exactly what happened. That Native Americans, are largely a cross between Northern Europeans and Asians coming across the land bridge. Or one coming across the land bridge and the other boating across. So Odin is Nordic. Jesus claimed to get rid of wicked people, while Odin promised to get rid of ice giants. I don't see any ice giants around. Yeah, you can't argue. It's very effective. It's a good point. Zeus was Greek, not Nordic. Yeah, bless your pardon me for that. The imagery is what I'm talking about. You're absolutely right. But the people who the Greeks were arguably a white group of people. Their god, their images of their god reflected their physical characteristics. What I'm saying is that each religion reflects their physical characteristics. Everybody's god looks a lot like them. Zeus versus Odin, who wins? The argument is they're the same person. It's just a different name. It's kind of like the Abrahamic religions in that Christians, Jews, and Muslims all worship the same God. They just argue about who inherits the store. Being that Christians think that the inheritor showed up, the Messiah has inherited God's store and is now running it in the form of Jesus. The Jews believe that he hasn't arrived yet, and the Muslims believe that the assistant manager has shown up and is running the place until such time as the original owner comes back and runs stuff. So it's an argument about if and when and who is the Messiah. What is Trump's nemesis? A stiff wind? Kale? It's himself. Trump is his own worst enemy. Let's be abundantly clear. If he was less of an F-up, he would be far and away... he'd be running away with a lot of the things that they, quote-unquote, would have wanted during his presidency. If he was any of the things he said he was, they'd have everything done by now. Well, Kevin, that was necessary. The idea that Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes was a... never mind how like Africans are dealing with albinism in their own on the continent as standouts, and people who are born with less pigment are considered good luck or witches, depending on where you are. It was the adaptation of Jesus to the northern territories that the European continent, that your religion had to reflect what you look like. Had it gone through Asia first, is a strong argument because of the volume of human beings that Jesus would look more Indian, therefore more Asian, because of how the geography goes. He kind of looks like us. He lived over there, but he walked through here. He looked kind of similar. That's the same argument, like almost the South African argument. God didn't make us in his image. We created him in ours. I think it's a projection of the physicalization. I think it can't... Ultimately, God exists only in the non-temporal. So the idea that it has any secondary sex characteristics is goofy. It is only for interpretive possibility that you need to... If you need to interpret a lesson and you need it to take female or male shape for you to kind of get what's going on, it's like she's got 1,000 arms and it's female because she can nurture us, and yet there's it's the same. It's the who would beat up, who'd win in a fight, Superman or the Hulk. It's those kind of arguments. It's immaterial to the circumstance. The question is, morally, what does it bring you to? And if it brings you to a worse space, it's a bad interpretation of a fundamental energy that flows through all things and is part of, has created everything. And this idea that somehow God created heaven and earth, but the devil's running around uncontrolled, and just humans deserve to have to deal with this asshole, and I can't do anything about it, is just it's cartoonish. But the essential belief system of the creation mythology doesn't necessarily undermine the idea of creation on some level. It just means that you're trying to corner the market on the argument, and that's just not possible. Can't give chapter and verse, but his hair color is mentioned. Yes, it is. But it's also a Bible that's been translated at least 9 times in English, not to mention Greek and Aramaic. So I'm sure his Jesus was a ginger. Yeah, I'm sure his hair changed colors over the years. Yeah, by the time they got to Scotland, he was a fiery redhead with a weird accent, you know, and he played the bagpipe like no one. He turned water into whiskey. Jesus was described as having skin like sackcloth. He was Middle Eastern and brown, not the. Yeah, but sackcloth was hay colored. I sent your patch out, Jude, with everybody else's. So I will send another one just in case it got lost in the mix-up. But it should have arrived. Give us a paint. Yeah, I just walked in. Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to teach you a couple of parables because you're too stupid to understand what I mean if I just tell you straight away. And then I'm going to go walk on water. But first, raise your glasses. Right, that's good. I'm Jesus Christ. And feel free to say my name whenever you've hit your thumb with a hammer. That's good. You know, whack. Just call my name. I'll come running. That's why you do it. I'm not taking the Lord's name in vain. I'm calling for help. Crack. Jesus Christ. I busted my thumb. Heal it. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Boy, that guy's reliable. Better than the NIH. Oh my God, give us a pint. Houseworks, do you or any of the Lab Rats actors do a fan meetup? I think the kids did one of those things you have to go to, but I don't know. God is, just is. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And so your interpretation, like in Freemasonry, you can't be a Mason and be an atheist. But you don't have to believe in a particular doctrine. You just have to believe, you know, the kind of catch-all phrase is the grand architect of the universe. But that doesn't have to take any particular form. And you know, there's there's a holy book, or you know, that is used in most lodges and in most English-speaking and American lodges, it's a Bible. But in some countries, it's, you know, like in our lodge, the Iranian Grand Lodge in Exile meets in California and in Los Angeles, and they use the Quran because that's their book. You know, it's their you know, and that's what you take your obligations on. And so, and this is true, you know, if you're Jewish and you want to use the Torah, you absolutely can. If you are spiritualist and you use the Course in Miracles, or I would imagine you could use Pablo Coelho's The Alchemist if you wanted to, if it was indicative of your belief in God and it had some fundamental sacredness to it. But the idea is that something's got to be sacred to you, or I don't know why I'm even talking to you in that regard. And so, but again, there is no specific religion to it, and I think because I think it was Albert Pike who said everyone's entitled to their own mistake when it comes to God. That's what religious freedom is about. Everyone's entitled to their own mistake. You can't know what God's thinking or what God's plan is, or if you can even shape God into an anthropomorphic kind of entity that has thoughts like you. It's just not possible. And if you think you can, you're welcome to think that, but it's too big. God is too big in concept to fit in the corpus callosum of a human being. It's just not possible. So you're welcome to be mistaken about it. Whatever your analogy is going to be wrong somewhere. But you have to understand that with a level of humility and act forth morally in the world. So Brahman, basically, right. My book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Hey, don't panic. If you are a conflicted Catholic, you can be both a Mason and a Knight of Columbus. That's true, right. Yeah, the Catholic Church won't allow you to be a Mason by edict. People are, but the Catholic Church wrote a bull against it because Masonry supports religious plurality. You know, that's why a lot of the founding fathers were Masons. They were like, yeah, we're not right about everything yet, but what we are right about is people making their own decision about God. So we're not going to create a state religion, and we're going to let you decide how and when and if you worship God, if at all. That kind of goes against the branding of most religions in practice, especially the Catholic Church and evangelical religions. So it's always that's always an issue for them. Vogons and the merciless construction, yeah. Ode to a lump of ground putty I found in my armpit one day. Vogon poetry is the worst poetry in the world. The current pope supports religious plurality, so jokes on them now. Yeah, that might just be a branding thing. Like, hey, try those other folks, but if you don't like what they have, come back here. We'll give you a coupon. You can. They're now. A lot of religions are trying now the cell service thing. Hey, switch over and we'll give you a instant dispensation. We'll forgive all your sins if you just come to us. Just give that religion a try for a while, and then come on over to your local branch. Loaves, fishes, and some wine as a party. Absolutely. It's a great lesson in sharing and in abundance. If I'm not mistaken, Masons designed Washington, D.C. How can they sit by as white supremacists take over our country? I don't know that we're sitting by. And I think a lot of Masons are actually taking this. I mean, my lodge is completely diverse. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, you could save 15% on your sins if you switch to the Catholic Church right now. It's because of people are moving from organized corporate religion to individual spirituality. Mm-hmm. Catholic Church has their own society. I'm blanking on the name of the association, right? The trick to flying is to throw yourself at the ground and miss. Yeah, my grandfather used to try to trick us as little kids. Like, you can fly. All you got to do is jump and then jump again before you land. And like, we'd run around like idiots at 2-3 years old going and just basically like chuck your leg. It was a great way to jam an ankle. Number of meetings to do both would wear me out. Yeah, faith shopping. Religion is for those who fear hell. Spirituality is for those who have already been there. That's an interesting. There's a T-shirt. Yeah. So, well, let me wind down here and get on with my day. I have a huge writing session coming up, and I've got notes to make before then. And I'm going to try to run down. You can hear the helicopters going by. I'm going to try to run down to the Women's March. And see, it's looking pretty good. Looking like a nice crowd from what I can see. But I think we can have an entire HSRPM special on religion at some point. I don't mind doing that at all. Yes, and Jude, you should email your address again. Again, anybody who's in the chat room, if you didn't get a blue patch and you're with us and you're one of our regulars, go to thehouseparks.com, go to the contact page. You can send me a message there. Include the word patch in the body of the text and your address, and we'll mail you one. And because some of them got lost in the fray, and then other ones, some addresses changed. So if it got mailed to an old address because of when we started all this business, I apologize. But just send it if you haven't got one yet. Yeah. Blue Squadron, go. That's right. It's a quote that stuck with me. I feel it's apt. Yeah, absolutely. I have to say I'm not as begrudging of organized religion as I used to when used sparingly. But it is now in this. I view it in the same way as like alcohol or pot. Like, I feel like in moderation, they can be healthy for some people, but most people don't know what moderation is. And that's where it fails them. So, there we go. Look at that. Anyways, you guys take care of yourselves. We will see you again next time. Again, we will have another HSRPM special, and then I'm gonna talk to CPT about trying to set up one of those get-togethers in the city. where I come and I'll, maybe we can meet at, I like the LGBT Center on Halstead because I think it'd be good to draw attention to them or whatever. Maybe we could do a little fundraiser for them at the same time, do the show live from there, and then have a meet and greet talk, something like that. We'll reach out and see if we can make that happen. And if not, we'll just go to some place that serves food and blow the place up, fill it up with people. But you guys are awesome, and I thank you guys again for the super chat. I want to say again, Milkman Norm, I don't think I got to say thank you earlier. I think that buzzed by while I was wailing and gnashing my teeth. The same thing with MS Ting 0100 Misting, I guess there. Thank you so much for saying, she or he wrote, thanks for being one of the few rational, intelligent voices on our airways. I appreciate it. And Milkman Norma is dedicated, he gave 666 as a donation to the Ronnie James Dio Memorial Wing of the Hall of Rock. I love that idea. Hal Vickery, pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. That's nice. Lord Dracul, thank you so much. Mike Brogan, thank you. Absolutely. The Prof, look at that. Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden Rocks, I completely agree. Billy, thank you not only for the super chat, but also for the great call today. Sandra, thank you very much. Nicole Lane, doing it in pounds. So very UGLE of you. That's the Unified Grand Lodge of England for the Masons that follow. Amos, thank you so much. A little sympathy for the devil is always appreciated. TLK Knitting. Natalie, bless you. Ellie Werner and Billy, thank you guys so much for super chatting with us today, and we will see you again next time. Of course, there's always patreon.com/HalSparks if you want to support the show that way. It'll help us, and then eventually, if we get to a tipping point, we may eventually have another show every week. That would be kind of the goal ultimately, is that we do maybe a Saturday and Sunday. That could be a cool thing, if we could even take it at this point. But leading up to the 2018 thing, I'm toying with the idea of doing a daily run or something, especially in the 2 months leading up to the election this year, to make sure everything's on the up and up, and make sure that everybody knows what their voting rights and their ability to vote is in good measure. So we'll as we get closer to that, we'll start talking about it or whatever. But I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. And I want to say bye. Thank you, Natalie. You have a great weekend, too. Michael, appreciate it. Maybe I'll switch to my Twitter handle since Hal hurts his throat saying this. I don't hurt my throat. I love that you're Bill the Cat and it says, I think it's great, and it makes me happy. So please don't. Hal, no Stormy Daniels interviews? I have her scheduled. She's going to be on there. Oh, by the way, Superior Podcast next week, for those of you that listen. Perez Hilton's going to be our guest. This week's we taped last week, so that'll air Monday. But the next episode, Perez Hilton's going to be a guest, and I think John Henson, my old buddy from Talk Soup, will be a guest the following week. So we're going to start having some bigger guests on there, and really continue to talk about people like, because if you follow Perez, like, you know how much I hate celebrity gossip, and I'll probably chew his ear a little bit on that, but he's been working out and dieting and doing stuff to try to get himself healthier and in shape. He has kids now, and he wants to be able to keep up with them. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Same thing with John Henson. He's been touring more and all that kind of stuff. The idea of like trying to get your, keep your business afloat and keep your life afloat and keep yourself healthy when you're on the road is a big part of life. So anyways, just letting you know that that's coming up. Superior Podcast is, of course, my podcast with the lovely and talented Frank Prather. Superior Pod is our Twitter handle. And on this one, hashtag HSRPM if you want to talk to me during the show about that on Twitter, @HalSparks. And, of course, like I said, Patreon and Super Chats are always welcome. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. You guys are awesome. See you later. Bye-bye. Have a good winter. Have a good walk. Everybody who's at the walk, I salute you. Thank you for being here and standing up. It's amazing. We'll see you next time.